Good evening, bonsoir. Bienvenue à la séance ordinaire du 20 février. Please welcome to the regular public meeting on February 20th. Please rise for the national anthem. Before we begin, we'll do territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the City of Bathurst as the ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq. Today, these lands are home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse history and culture of the Mi'kmaq in this region. Reconnaissance territoriale, nous reconnaissons avec respect l'emplacement de la ville de Bathurst en tant que terre ancestrale du peuple Mi'kmaq. Aujourd'hui, ces terres sont hôtes d'une population diverse, comprenant personnes natives du territoire et autres patries. Nous reconnaissons aussi avec respect l'histoire et les diverses cultures du peuple Mi'kmaq de la région. All right, Ms. Parker, we'll go to the adoption of the agenda.
That the agenda be approved as presented.
All right, may I have someone to propose? Councillor Hondas, second by Councillor Scarry. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Parker, do we have any declaration of conflict of interest?
Councillor Willett has declared a conflict of interest with item 9.4, 2024 Bathurst Harvest Festival Corvette event.
All right, perfect. So we'll go to adoptions of the minutes. 4.1, special public meeting held on January 29, 2024. Ms. Parker.
That the minutes of the special public meeting dated January 29th, 2024 be approved as circulated.
All right. Okay. Moved by Councillor Branch, second by Councillor Legacy. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 4.2, regular public meeting held on February 5th, 2024.
That the minutes of the regular public meeting dated February 5th, 2024 be approved as circulated.
All right. May I have someone to move? Councillor Burnett, second by Councillor LeBlanc. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against? Motion carried. Consent of agenda. So we'll go straight to number 6, public and administrative presentation. We do have a 2024 annual Bathurst Bass Jam presented by Derek Devereaux. Mr. Devereaux, right, come on up. The mic is yours. As a reminder for this evening, anybody that comes to the podium, you have 15 minutes, which includes yourself, Mr. Devereaux. If you can present your name and who you are and go from there.
My name is Derek Devereaux. I've been born and raised in Bathurst area, and I'm here concerning the base competition that I'm hosting for car automobiles. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. First off, I'd like to say thank you for having me here this evening in regards to the show that I host, which is Base Jam. For those of you who aren't aware of what Base Jam is a car audio competition held here in Bathurst, New Brunswick since 2017. Base Jam is a type of event where people from all across Atlantic provinces who have sound systems installed in their vehicles that aren't your typical factory stereos. These people range from beginner to the more experienced, hoping to have the loudest decibel reading within their power classes. These types of events aren't new by any means, as they date back to the 1990s, 80s, and possibly the 70s. As the host of this event, I'd also like to mention how appreciative I am of the past support I have received from the City of Bathurst over the years, regardless of tonight's hearing. Last year, Base Jam received the attention of a new league called International Championship for Car Entertainment, also known as ICCE, based out in Ontario. I had indicated during my last presentation that they had scouted out Base Jam and contacted me before the show even took place. After some communication, they have also sponsored last year's show as well and sent some products of their own for competitors to potentially win. And now they're on their own product line. Mobile Audio has now touched base here in Atlantic Canada and has since sold their products because of last year's show. So in a way, Base Jam, held here in Bathurst, is not only slowly getting more attention, but is bringing some revenues here and in other Atlantic provinces. This new partnership combining Base Jam with ICCE will allow competitors to be able to know when coming to Base Jam, it is a show like no other. And the awards are like no other competition held in Atlantic Canada in the world of car audio. This partnership will now allow competitors to go online, the ICCE website, and see if they scored well enough to make it on the list that includes the top scores of not only amongst the loudest in the Maritimes, but in all of Canada where this league has taken place. Having the show as a pre-registered event last year, it had helped us a lot because it was able to give a better idea of how many competitors were going to be showing up at the show. And it also helped us to classify them ahead of time, which sped up the process. The cost to pre-register is $30 before June 30th and $35 thereafter. Last year, unfortunately, Nova Scotia was hit with a hurricane that same weekend as Base Jam was taking place. As a result, some of the members' vehicles were washed out and could not make it to the event. The number of competitors that pre-registered last year was 14, and unfortunately, I had about 6 that couldn't make it because of the situation that they were suddenly in. However, having that said, the day of the show, I actually had members showing up at the gate unregistered. And if the storm hadn't happened, I would have exceeded having over 20 vehicles, which would have been a fantastic result. I would like to request to having the parking lot next to the Federal Building employee parking lot or the lot that is next to the 13 barrels. Both would be ideal size needed to host the event safely and close enough to capture the attention of spectators who are nearby enjoying other events within the area. I am open to other suggestions on where Base Jam can relocate if one of those lots are not accepted. So if I could be directed to the person that would need to speak with in regards to the parking lots that I spoke of, that information would definitely be helpful. We all know every show needs spectators, and to have that oh wow over what they are seeing, or just a simple jaw-dropping response seeing the hard work that these members have put into their sound systems and vehicles. Last April, during my last presentation, I was only able to explain how the awards were going to appear because they were still in a process of being produced. However, this year, with this year's event, because I was starting to plan things early, I am now able to present one of those awards to you. We'll start with the one that I had last year. My might not be able to see it very well in here. But it has, and it's 7 different colors, and it can alternate colors, just keep on going. It has location, the year was, it was the 4th annual show that we had. The class, Auto Sound and Performance in Beresford, who also sponsors the show. The city of Bathurst was on them as well. The hospitality committee is there, and the ICCE logo for the new league is at the bottom left here, and then the manufacturer of the awards is here. Now, if you had noticed, I did incorporate the City of Bathurst coat of arms, but also the Hospitality Days logo last year. And this is how the awards will be looking this year. Again, same type deal, but they're 2 times the size. Now, if you, the cost of these awards this is the cost of the awards done, which was $550 Canadian once received. Because I am the same returning customer this year, I was not only able to keep the cost the same, but also because I am a returning customer, I was able to give or make them 2 times larger. And since the company themselves sponsor as well by adding some, we had dog tags last year that was donated by them. We had keychains last year that was donated by them, and they had made it a little bit cheaper than the average person getting their awards finished. By presenting and explaining Bass Jam once again in front of council, I am hoping that it can lead to the same unanimous decision in sponsoring Bass Jam Car Audio Competition for 2024. Yesterday, I had received a $250 anonymous donation for Bass Jam, and those funds will go towards the cost associated with the show. So this evening, I am only seeking half of that, which is $250, instead of the $500 like last year. My main goal since 2017 was to be part of the festival that we have in Bathurst and give citizens, young or old, one more event to enjoy while they're here.
All right, so we ready for questions? Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 questions. One, which date do you say you wanted this?
It's going to be the 20th and 21st of July.
Okay, so I believe those are the dates of the big shows here in town also?
Possibly, yeah.
So my next question is regarding your location requests. Of course, my fear, I want this show to happen. Remember, I'm a supporter.
Yes.
I was supporting last year, and I love what you're doing. I am, I don't know if we have anyone from the, well, we have Councillor Knowles. The noise, the sound, right? The loudness of it, they're going to have to be setting up. There's activities during the day also downtown, so is it too much to ask to put it back at the Casey Irving? Is that possible?
That's where I was before for the last, well, hopefully not 5 years. The problem with that is there's not enough events in that area, so it kind of secludes me from everything going on in Bathurst, and I'm trying to change that. We have people coming from like New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, even Quebec. I'm trying to get some people to come up from Quebec. And it kind of looks better when your surroundings has more involved than just the car audio show. Because there is a car show going on Main Street usually. And then last year I had kept an eye on the parking lot that I was speaking of. And I've noticed that next to the 13 Barrels, there was, I want to say, a Corvette show.
Yep.
But where the parking lot is next to the federal building, employee parking was empty. There was a few cars parked there, but it wasn't being used.
But my concern isn't the lot, it's the loudness of the
The
sound
loudness
with-
of the sound systems.
Yeah.
I was hoping that because I'm further away from the buildings, federal buildings closed, any business within that area, because where I'm trying to have it is almost that bend that you have where the boulevard turns is right there at that corner. So it would be far enough from the buildings, but noise travels. And you are right on that. I have even my own sound system. I'm pushing almost 158 decibels inside.
Yeah, I know when you pass in front of my house, I know who it is.
See, I hold seven records in the Maritime, so it does have some of its perks, but when it comes to noise level, at the same time, we have other events going on that are going to be just as loud, if not louder. I was at the car show down on Main Street, and they had a band playing where they have the Christmas tree lit up, usually. They had a band playing there, and then they had a DJ going there as well.
Well, yeah, and I understand that because that's the event, but if that event's happening at the same time as other events where, like I said, people walking around the car show and they're setting up the sound for the big shows that'll be in those evenings, will that interfere? Anyhow, I'm not a professional by any means, and I can't tell you if it can or if it cannot, but that is, just want to let you know, that's my one concern there.
Right. All I can say is that during the show, we may be giving spectators a view of the vehicle. They can sit inside the vehicle. They can get a listen of the vehicle, and some of these vehicles are pretty extreme. But during the show itself, what we do, it might take 3-4 second burps. It's just like a brr, and then it stops, and then we get the meter registering the number of decibels that they are hitting for that amount of seconds. They have 30 seconds to do each one of their runs, but no one sits there for 30 seconds leaving it hammered down. It's just too very, very hard on the equipment.
All right, I think that's the only questions I had. Thanks.
All right. Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Mr. Devereaux, thanks for your presentation. I know you're putting a lot of work into this event.
I try.
I'm a volunteer on the Hospitality Days Committee, and we have the only concern that I have, I think I can speak for the rest of the committee, is that there's multiple events going on Saturday and Sunday, the 20th and 21st. We have the car show on King and Main. We have the street vendors, downtown businesses are going to have a street sale. We have a charity barbecue, and plus we have the band's sound checks going on from 12 to 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon at Vickers Field. So my concern would be, like, the sound level would be quite disruptive. That's the concern I have with that. We support your event. I can speak for the rest of the committee. We certainly support you, but it's the location that's going to be key.
Is
Now, I
there
don't know
a possible suggestion of a lot somewheres in town? I just really don't want to have, it doesn't matter what show it is, to be secluded somewheres.
I don't want to speak for the whole committee. Maybe somebody from the administration could speak to that, or I don't know.
Because I'm
That
open,
would be a
like I said,
that would
I'm
be a
open for
concern
suggestions.
For the committee, for sure.
Pardon?
That would be a concern for the committee, like with the noise level, the disruption it could cause,
Right.
and that would be a concern. But other than that, we support your event, sure.
Okay. Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Is my mic working?
Yes, you
Is it?
are.
Okay, thank you. Can we refer the monetary figure to the grants committee? Like, we didn't do that last year, and there was some confusion, and we still have some monies left there, so maybe that would be good to refer that to there. And as far as the location, wouldn't it be good for this gentleman to get together with those from the hospitality days and work things out as to where a lot would go, so that, they can be all on the same page rather than back and forth? And Councillor Knowles might be able to set that up with his committee to get them together for a good location.
Okay. Mr. Dever, when would you need for the $250? Because the committee would meet together. How soon would you require?
Whenever it's available.
Whenever it's available?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
put the order through right now. I had the prototype to make sure I had something to show.
Yeah.
I didn't want to come here empty-handed and only have, an explanation.
Okay.
But as soon as the funds are available, I'll send it off, and then the company will produce them.
All right, so committee's okay to meet for that one, and then we'll follow through. And is council okay that Mr. Devereaux meets with the Hospitality Days Committee? As Councillor Burnett suggested? Okay, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
Meet with the committee and try to figure something
Sure,
out?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember last year, I was actually at KCI, and I was like, what's this? It's like I'm walking around a corner, and I'm standing there, and I was like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It is, right.
We had a good show out. We ended up having a little bit of weather problems.
Yeah.
Even up here. Wasn't nearly as bad as Halifax, but, you know, we had thunderstorm and whatnot coming through and try to, you know, get all of our equipment all hidden up and whatnot. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm very flexible when it comes to something like that. It's just like I said, before I was in the front parking lot of the Casey Irving. And then last year I was in the back and the bottom, and then I'd say about 9:30, a half hour before the show even took place, I had security come to me and they wanted me to move my show back up to the top after I had the whole site already fixed up. So I was like, I can't make that feasible at the last second here.
Yeah.
So I counted my spots that I estimated what I think I could use, and I said, after this line, put your barricades up and you can use the rest of the parking lot, no problem. I want to try to make sure and maintain I have the safety of everyone involved, whether they're spectators or, you know, competitors.
Exactly. Nope, fully understand. Okay, so you do have our support, so meet with the committee and then follow through, definitely.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Finances. We will go to accounts payable totals for January 2024. Ms. Parker.
That the accounts payable totals, including payroll for the month of January 2024, be approved as follows. Operating, $1,202,636. Capital, $318,340. Total, $2,925,584.
All right, so I'll go and get a mover and a seconder, and then we'll go to Mr. Pettigrew. Okay, moved by Councillor Willett, second by Councillor Knowles. Before we go to the question, Mr. Pettigrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this print is getting smaller each meeting. And I was told to talk louder, so I'm going to try my best tonight. The following is a summary of disbursements for both the operating and capital funds for the month of January 2024. Under the capital fund, RH Fernet received a payment of $205,554 for combined sewer reduction and booster station. Lounsbury Automotive received a payment of $66,888 for a police vehicle. Roy Consultants Limited received a payment of $33,302 for consulting services on different capital projects throughout the city. Force One Automotive received a payment of $12,595 for police vehicle decals and equipment, for a total in the capital fund of $318,340. In the operating fund, Chiller Regional Service Commission received a payment of $40,782 for garbage, recycling, sludge, and tipping fees. Town Suite Municipal Finance, Municipal Software received a payment of $137,616 for our financial software system. Minister of Finance received a payment of $183,642 for various Minister of Finance payments. Sierra Planning Services received a payment of $18,721 for the pool and recreation study. WEX Canada received a payment for gas of $28,117. Simtel Inc. received a payment of $27,332 for our phone system hardware. NV Power received a payment for electricity of $175,145. Receiver General of Canada received a payment of $18,480 for various police training programs. Irving Energy received a payment of $37,198 for bulk diesel and oil. Otis Canada received a payment for the elevator maintenance program of $14,232. Bell Mobility Radio received a payment of $13,568 for radio licenses. Other recurring payments of $507,803 include animal control, repair supplies, and promoter settlements for tickets, for a total of $1,202,636 in the operating fund. Total payroll for 4 pay periods was $1,404,609 for a total in the month of January of $2,925,584. That is my report, Your Worship.
All right, so we do have a question from Councillor Legacy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious, last we heard from the pool and recreational study, we were supposed to have I thought that was supposed to be done last fall. Do we have a timeline update?
Thank
Mr.
you, Worship.
Pettigrew?
We'll go through to Mr. Ryan Wilbur.
Oh, Mr. Wilbur?
Yes, we do have an updated timeline. Sierra Planning had run into a few delays with the delivery of both projects, so as it stands currently, we should have the preliminary report for the pool feasibility study, I believe, in the month of March, towards the end of the month of March, and for the recreation master plan sometime in the month of April, I believe.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? All right. So then I'll go to the question. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Municipal bylaws. So we'll go to receipt of the Planning Advisory Committee recommendations. Monsieur Bouffard.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, as it was mentioned last time, the last presentation, it was the intent to do the same presentation tonight. I noticed there is some people who were not in the room 2 weeks ago for the presentation to council. Now it's a public presentation as part of the public hearing, as part of the rezoning process. So basically, I'm going to redo the same presentation that we did a few weeks ago. This is the request, the letter that first came in a few months ago from the proponent for the project. Are we going to read that letter as part of the present? No, perhaps I should read, to be fair, because I know we are going to read the opposition letter, but this is the request. This is the letter submitted by Doucette Holding, Mike Doucette and Chris Drysdale. So to whom it may concern, it is our intentions to convert an existing empty government office building into a 32-bedroom student housing dormitory. See attached sketch and floor plan. According to the letter from the Minister of Housing, Honorable Jill Green, in the NB Housing Strategy, Housing for All paper that was released in June 2023, there is a huge need for increased housing supply in New Brunswick. This strategy highlights ways to improve and increase development and the removal of bottlenecks in provincial and municipal approval procedures. The paper also states that the province and municipality should identify vacant government buildings which would be suitable for conversion into housing development to decrease the cost for developers. Attached is a letter from the President and CEO of New Brunswick NBCC, New Brunswick Community College, Pierre Zundel. Mr. Zundel fully supports our project and recognizes the need for increased student housing in order for NBCC to keep up with its exponential growth. Needless to say that this conversion project is fit perfectly into the needs and provincial plan to quickly increase the housing market. Plans for the main building. So the basement will offer 2 fully equipped kitchens with 6 stoves and fridge, a large dining room, game room, and common area and TV room. So the students are able to relax and have a place to socialize after a long day at school. There will also be 6 4-piece bathroom and laundry room to provide all the necessities for the students. The main floor will offer 15 bedrooms as well as 2 more full bathrooms, while the upstairs floor will have another 17 bedrooms as well as 2 more full bathrooms. There will be security cameras in all the common area and strict rules that the students will have to follow. The students will be responsible for the cleanliness of their apartment, respecting their rooms, but we will hire the student sorry. Yeah, but we will hire someone to come in 3 times a week to maintain and clean the common area of the building. The main focus for this project is to get the main 32 units building renovated for the upcoming September 2024-2025 school year. Phase 2 of the project will be for the second building currently on the lot, which is being used as a garage. Future plan for this building may be convert it into a duplex apartment or into more student housing if the demand is there. No interior plan has been developed at this time for the second building, as our main focus is to renovate the main building on the property. So it's important to mention here that it was the intent of the proponent to have the 2 building part of this project. This is why at that time the planners responsible for this project did suggest that the land be rezoned integrated development where you could have more than one main use on the property. But at the PAC meeting, the proponent decided to withdraw his application for the second building and only have one main building on the property. So at that time, because it's no longer a mixed use, it was suggested that it will be possible to consider this project as an amendment to the zoning bylaw only, and to add as a conditional use the proposed use in the proposed rezoning bylaw. So this request that was submitted to the PAC and to the planning department is for student housing. The word student is mentioned many times, and it's not mentioned no other type of housing or residence is mentioned in the application. So that's the plan of the building. So again, they will renovate the existing building. The only change will be to raise the roof over the 2 wings. They will be raised, but the structure, the building will remain about the same. So again, this is the plan of the building. You have the section at the top is the basement, where you have 2 kitchens, storage area, a laundry, you have toilets, you have a dining room, game room, TV room, common room. And then on the main floor, you have rooms for students. There are 2 double bedrooms, but all the other one are bedrooms for 1 person, 1 bed. And this is the plan of the second floor. I don't think it was mentioned but I read a lot of the opposition, and many opposition make reference to the building code, to barrier-free and fire code, and of course, it has nothing to do with the rezoning at this time, but like any building being built in Bathurst, when the owner or when the applicant apply for a building permit, they will have to follow building codes, barrier-free codes, fire code, any codes that apply. And this project, it is my understanding that we have an architectural firm working on the plan, but when they are at this stage for a building permit, they will have to comply with all building code that would apply. So this map here shows the existing land use of the surrounding area. It explains how the land is being developed. So in yellow, you have properties used, occupied by single 1 or 2 units dwellings. In orange, like on Riverside, you have you have residential medium density. We have. Can I use the mouse? Yeah. Yeah. So again, we have apartment building in this area. This land use, this color here shows the care homes. We have 2 care homes in this area, and also we have Villa Chaleur near the college. We have some land designated for commercial use at the intersection of Queen and Riverside, and we have one business, a McLean shop here. Institutional, we have 2 main institutional properties in this area. We have Superior School, and of course we have the community college and all the other building associated to the college, and the mini home park in front of the proposed location. So the intent of that is to show, to give you an indication of how the land is being used in the area, and also, of course, we have this the railroad that constitute a barrier if you want to go to the college. This is why it is my understanding that most students who walk in the area will cross the track underneath using the tunnel under the track on the College Street and so on. So I have in my presentation I have a series of air photos. So if you need them, if you need those those photos for presentation later on, then you may require them for reference if this is needed. This is the current zoning map. So in a sense, the zoning map reflects the existing land use of the area. So in red, you have, this is a subject property being zoned institutional. We have land alongside Riverside and college zone R2 for low residential density. I will come back on that. The school and the college are zoned institutional. In yellow here we have the R3 zone. They are residential, but with higher density development, and also various kind of residence, not just a house. They also include apartment buildings and so on. And we have R6 is the mini home park. So this is the zone, and at the intersection of Queen and Riverside, the land is zoned general commercial, and a wide range of commercial business of commercial development will be permitted on those properties. Family or household, if you want, I think they need to be explained, or they need to be defined. So any dwelling units in Bathurst may be occupied by a family, or someplace they will call them household. So these are one person who lives alone in a dwelling unit. Could be 2 persons living there as a, as a couple with their own kids, and also they could have up to 4 foster children living with them, placed by the government. Also, talking about rooming house, any dwelling units in Bathurst may be occupied by a rooming house. Basically, and I will come back on that, it is defined, but any property owners in Bathurst, he could rent rooms in his house to a maximum of 4 people living there, in addition to his own family. And also a dwelling, a household or family is also a group of not more than 5 unrelated persons who do occupy a dwelling units. So these are the definition of household or family in Bathurst. The subject property is zoned institutional. So right now, these are the use that will be permitted on that property without rezoning as of right. So these include public assembly for social and cultural activities, educational building, could be a school, a private school, a hospital or health building, could be a library, museum, art gallery, that could be private, or a cultural center, municipal building, religious building, a church, a commercial daycare, a government building and use. So that was the previous use. As we all know, that property was occupied by the Office of Department of Natural Resources. Could be a nursing and senior citizen home, a group home that has its own definition. I will come back on that. And also a medical or health office. So a medical clinic run by doctors would be a permitted use on this property. So a group home would be permitted as a right. So this is a building in which accommodation and nursing, supervisory, and or personal care is provided for more than 3 persons with social, health, emotional, mental, or physical handicap or problems. These include facilities that are licensed by the province, but they do not include private or public hospitals, sanatorium, jail, prison, reformatory, hostel, halfway house, or shelter. The most property along Riverside are zone R2. So on those property, the zoning will permit 1 or 2 unit dwellings or semi-detached dwelling. And also a park, a playground, or a tot lot. As a secondary use, a home business will be permitted, and some use are subject to a review by the Planning Advisory Committee. These include granny flats and a neighborhood daycare center. And also under the zoning for each zone, there is a reference about the density that I thought it was appropriate to mention. So it gives you an appreciation of the density that is suggested by the zoning bylaw for each of these zones. So in the R2 zone, we're talking about the density is about 14 dwellings per hectares. So if you compute that with the size of the area of the lot, then it gives you an appreciation of the density. But again, this is not, that density is an indicator. Other aspect will be taken into consideration when you issue the building permit. The type of building, the size, and so on. So, but those density, they are included in the zoning bylaw, and it gives you an appreciation of the density proposed for each zone in Bathurst. So that's for the R2 zone. R3 zones, again, the density is higher. According to the zoning bylaw, it's a density of 82 units per hectares, but the main use on those lots are 1 or 2 unit dwellings, apartment buildings up to 16 units. You could have townhouse dwelling in a series or group. So basically it means you could have a group of apartment building on the same lot containing 8 units. You could have parks, playground, recreational fees, swimming pool could be permitted use in the R3 zone without a rezoning because it's a permitted use. Secondary use include home business and a series of conditional use. So same thing, they do require the review by the Planning Advisory Committee, but but they do include boarding or rooming house, tourist home, inn, bed and breakfast, a commercial daycare, a group home, nursing home, a neighborhood commercial use on the ground floor or basement, and a community or resource center. So these are for the R3 zone. As it was mentioned, in those R3 zone, bed and breakfast, boarding house, rooming house will be permitted, but they have to be reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee, but they have to operate inside an existing single unit dwelling. The operator must live there, and the occupancy is limited to 10%, including the residents' family members, and there are some parking requirements. But this project is not for rooming house. I know but for us, this project is for a student residence, so those standards will not apply. We have to define our own standards for student residence. R4 zone, again, if there are, it's just for indication, but we also have R4 zone in Bathurst where a higher density is permitted, bigger apartment building, and so on. At the intersection of Queen and Riverside, we have the general commercial zone. So again, I'm not going to read all that, but you can appreciate that a wide range of commercial use will be permitted on Riverside and Queen, or in this area, and that includes hotels, commercial daycare, shopping center, and so on. In the NB Summit on Housing, there was a summit, there was a study or summit last fall, and again, student housing is addressed, is mentioned in this strategy. It is recognized across New Brunswick that there is a need for student housing, both on campus and also off campus. On the right side, it mentioned the program. It's a fact that the province of New Brunswick, they have fund in place to build student housing on campus or on not, but also residence operated by the university or the college. But on the left side, another section of the report also recognized that there is also a need for student housing outside, off campus. It's good to have the housing on campus, but also, like most communities, there is a need to have student housing off campus. There are some guiding principles that, you know, we did some research. Again, one decision by the Supreme Court applied to across Canada that we have to be careful about discrimination. But also I found that the Ontario Human Rights Commission, it's not a bylaw, it's an opinion that was given by the Ontario Human Rights Commission to a municipality, and basically I thought it was useful to include those guiding principles in the review of this application, because I'm sure in New Brunswick we have our own Human Rights Commission, but I'm sure that any Human Rights Commission across Canada will come out with the same conclusion. So what they suggest, again, they are guiding principles. This is not bylaws, these are guiding principles given by this commission to the municipality of Oshawa. So students could be considered part of a code-protected group if they are treated differently from others based on age. So we have to be careful not to be discriminatory, whatever. People should be able to live in the community of their choice without discrimination. People do not have the right to choose their neighbors. Eliminating housing that benefits students result in negative effects for others protected by the Human Rights Code as well, including people in receipt of social assistance, people with disabilities, racialized people, single people, immigrants, and potentially families. So basically what they are saying is that if we provide convenient housing for students, we also increase the housing stock for other class of people in any communities that are suffering from a housing shortage. The number of bedrooms allowed in a rental property should be based on legitimate rationale, such as occupancy and health and safety standards, rather than on an arbitrary cap. In this case, the number of bedrooms were submitted by the developers. We use that number as for the bylaw, and of course the plan were designed by an architect. and zoning bylaws should not be used to regulate behavior. Existing enforcement bylaws such as noise and property standards bylaw could be used to address any behavior issue, and so on. So we have bylaws in place in Bathurst that are also, they are there to regulate those type of behavior. This rezoning is it's a rezoning under Section 59 of the Community Planning Act, so we call it a conditional rezoning. So attached to the bylaw, there will be conditions that where council may impose reasonable terms and conditions. Those conditions could deal with the use of the land, building, and structure, the site layout and design, including parking area, landscaping, access and egress. You will see later on in the attached site plan, we deal with those issues. Council could address the external design, appearance, and spacing of building and structure, and any other matters that it consider relevant to the situation. So, council may put you may propose conditions, and they could be part of the rezoning bylaw. Under Section 59, it's a provision that we could impose a time limit to do the project, that upon the rezoning of the land, it has to be used in conformity with the terms and condition. Council may enter into an agreement, and this is what we are doing. As the condition would be attached as an agreement, so they will require, they will have to be signed by the municipality, but also by the owner of the land, and also by the proponent, if they are different. So that will be a binding, there will be a binding agreement between the city, the owner, and the applicant. And Section 5, it says that if land or building structure to which a resolution or agreement is developed or used contrary to the provision of the resolution or agreement, or the developer failed to meet a time limit prescribed in the resolution or agreement, the council may cancel the resolution or agreement. So these are conditions, they are binding, the applicant is bound by those conditions, and if he is not following them, then council has a right to cancel the agreement, and the land has to return to its current zoning. So this is the map that is attached, sorry.
A lot of talking.
So this is the plan that is attached to the bylaw. Now, the condition. So these conditions has been reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee, and this is what they suggest to you. But again, council, you may amend those conditions, you may remove them, and also you may add any conditions that you believe will be appropriate. So, it is permitted to develop a student residence on the parcel of land subject to the terms and conditions set out in Schedule B of the bylaw. So, in the condition, we propose a residence, we propose the definition. So, the definition we propose means a residence with single or double rooms intended solely for students enrolled in a post-secondary institution on the CCNB campus. The residence must also include shared sanitary, culinary, and social facilities. If the parcel is not developed for student residence, it may be developed for the purpose and applicable standards mentioned in the zoning bylaw. So, if they do not, if the land, even if we rezone and they decide not to go ahead with the project, so the current zoning, the permitted, the use permitted, and the development standards that apply to those use continue to apply. So I think some people thought that by adding a student residence, that the existing use will disappear. No, they will continue to apply, but it's one or the other. If they don't develop a student residence, then the current zoning continue to apply. The following conditions, so this is the condition that that you will find in the annex, in the Schedule B. So they will apply if the parcel is developed for a student residence. So the existing accessory building must remain accessory to the main building and comply with the provision of Section 345 of the zoning bylaw. So it is not permitted to develop that building for any other use, for apartment or whatever. It has to remain an accessory building to the main use of the property. There shall be a maximum of 34 residents in 32 bedrooms. The student residence shall have a building supervisor or proctor to ensure discipline and report to the owner and to the applicant. A student residence may occupy this function. Prior to the adoption of the rezoning bylaw, the applicant shall be required to provide a written document acceptable to the City of Bathurst, to Council, describing the means that will be taken by them to ensure and guarantee that the residence will be occupied solely by students enrolled in a post-secondary institution on the CCNB campus. The only residential use permitted on the parcel are a student residence, a nursing home, a senior citizen home, or a group home. So I forgot to mention that when we were looking at the use permitted in the institutional use, but there are some kind of residence permitted in the institutional zone. These include nursing home, senior care home, or a group home. So, but to make sure, for greater certainty, rooming house, boarding house, and tourist home are not permitted on the parcel. So this is attached to the conditions. We have attached, there is a site plan attached to the zoning bylaw. So the parcel shall be developed in accordance with the site plan. Without the express permission of the Planning Advisory Committee, there shall be no change to the perimeter of the landscape area in the front. So what is green shall remain a green space, open space for trees, for grass, but it will not be permitted to, for example, to put parking in the front of the building. No change to the existing surface parking area, so the parking area as it is now, we believe this is sufficient for to accommodate this facility, this residence, and also it cannot increase the footprint of the two existing buildings, so no additions. Any development that, in the opinion of the planning department, varies the site plan shall be approved by the Planning Advisory Committee. The student reference must be developed within 24 months of the adoption of the rezoning bylaw. So failing to do so result in the parcel reverting back to its current zoning. The project shall comply to the building code and all other applicable regulations, including those applicable to barrier-free design. So we'll make sure that it's a requirement, it's the law, that this building has to be barrier-free, and it will be up to the building inspector working with the architect to make sure that the required standards do apply. The owner shall ensure effective compliance of any environmental law by getting any approval from the province, and of course, because we are along near the basin, if they do work within a certain distance, 30 meters, they need to apply for a WAWA permit. So any development, construction, or if you excavate the land, you need to have a WAWA permit from the province in the buffer of 30 meters. And for the rest, as mentioned, that these conditions apply if the land is not developed for student residence. And this is the last paragraph is taken from the act that the owner has to comply with with the agreement attached to the bylaw. So this is where we are now. So tonight, council meeting, we have the public hearing. Council received the views of the Planning Advisory Committee. So these are the conditions that I just read. You may proceed with the first and second reading of the bylaw. And it is my understanding that on February 26th, there will be a special council meeting where the conditions first and the bylaw will be adopted. And after that, the bylaw comes into force when it is registered at the registry office. So this is my presentation, Your Worship.
All right. We have a question from Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, Mr. Bouffard, regarding the size of the property. Theoretically, somebody could go ahead and put an apartment building there of 16 units based on the size of the property that's there. They could build an apartment with 16 units in it and rent those out to students, and there wouldn't be an issue, correct?
If it was rezoned residential. Right now, the only type of residence that will be permitted are nursing and senior citizen home and group home.
Right,
So
but
an
if
apartment building is not permitted right now.
but if it was rezoned,
If it was rezoned R3, if it was rezoned, because, you know, many people suggested in their opposition that the land should be rezoned R3.
right,
As it is. So in the R3 zone, you could have up to apartment buildings up to 16 units, but there are cases in Bathurst where with a variance that more units were permitted by the planning committee, but
Yeah.
also you are allowed to have townhouse. So that, if the land is rezoned R3.
so theoretically, if that happened, you could have upwards of 60 people living in that building.
How many?
Like upwards of 60. If you have 16 units, say 4 people per unit, that's 64. So
Yeah.
theoretically, you could have that happen.
Yeah, but on that property, there is room for more than one,
One building.
one building.
Okay.
It's, again, it is there, the lot is about 1.5 acres. So it could be, again, we didn't go that far, but I believe that it could be big enough to have more than one apartment building.
Okay.
So each unit, you're right, could have 4 or 5 people living there.
Right.
Could be also students.
Right.
You know, students could rent any apartment units in any apartment building is in Bathurst.
Right. Okay.
Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks for your presentation, Mr. Bouffard. Well done. You really went into depth. And my question is, since the community college looks like they're going to expand on the hill and maybe double the size of their campus there and do away with the one down Yahoo, all these things that you've put together tonight, will they be used for more campuses up on top of the hill with the new construction of the new school? Will it be the same rules to follow for the student residences up there that you have outlined this evening?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but it's common practice to have student housing on campus. Are you referring to on-campus student
Yeah, on
housing?
campus. When they put the school up there, the new school up on top of the hill on College Street, they definitely need some more housing for the students. So
Yes.
all these rules that you presented to us tonight, they will be the same that will go into those campuses up there.
No, right now, the only place in Bathurst where a student residence as defined will be permitted will be on this property.
So you don't foresee that this would be able to use, because you put a lot of work into
We'll
it.
have to be, again, no doubt that when you review the zoning bylaw, the municipal plan, I think this is an issue that will have to be addressed. The zoning plan was done many years ago, and perhaps there was not enough consideration given to student housing. But in line with the housing strategy that we saw that the province, you know, and it's not just student housing, it's all kind of apartment. So And I think that many people do suggest that in their presentation. When we review the municipal plan and the zoning bylaw, I think it will, the timing will be good to have a reflection about all those housing. But right now, student housing as defined, as proposed, only apply to this property.
Not to the hill.
Or on campus, if it was on the campus, in many places, they will consider student housing as an accessory building to the main use of the property that is a college or university. So on campus, it could be permitted without any rezoning, and there's no limitation. You see my point here? Right now, the project, the review is strictly for this project and this property.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. So, Mr. Buffal, because of the reform, every municipality is required to redo their municipal plan, right? I think that's part of the reform, and that's why, as the city of Bathurst, we're hiring a full-time municipal planner. You need to be certified in order to, and then to move forward, and that's every municipality within the city that has their own planning, right?
Yeah, again, when there was the new structure put in place a few years ago, government said all municipalities must review their municipal plan and zoning regulation to include the new area. So municipalities were given 5 years to do this exercise.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Buffal? No? Thank you. All right. So 8.11 for property located at 495 Riverside Drive. So I'll go to you, Ms. Parker, for that portion, or to the 8.2?
8.2.
Okay, 8.2, hearing of objections or support regarding proposed municipal plan amendment. Ms. Parker.
For the property located at 495 Riverside Drive, public notice required under Section 111 of the Community Planning Act and pertaining to the draft amendment of the zoning bylaw were published. 12 written objections were received. Letter dated February 7th, 2024. As stated in earlier correspondence, I am opposed to the entire project for many reasons, and I am now sending a letter updated because of the information given in the revised PAC presentation to Council on February 4th. A. Background issues, facts, justifications for the proposed development. 1. There is a major housing shortage across New Brunswick, and it is even more severe in Bathurst, where the vacancy rate for apartments is 0.0%, according to the government statistics. The proposed development is therefore presented as a logical solution to help alleviate the shortage. 2. There will soon be a major shortage of student housing in Bathurst, as the community college is about to amalgamate the CCNB U-Hall with CCNB main Bathurst campus. Although the international student population at CCNB is expected to increase in the future, the large number of international students currently attending CCNB could drop off for a few years due to 35% reduction by the federal government in the number of the international students that will be permitted into Canada. 3. The building at 495 Riverside Drive was listed for sale about 10 years ago. I have been told by some councillors that no one was interested in developing the property, and therefore the current student rental proposal is a timely solution. Therefore, many councillors feel that the city should jump quickly at the opportunity to use it. My personal in-depth research has revealed that over the years there has been a lot of interest in the property, but the main mitigating factor appears to be the high asking price, i.e., not lack of interest in the property. The question therefore arises, is this proposal really the best and only possible development for the property? 4. There are lucrative government cash incentive grants for the private businesses, up to $16,000 per unit, to help renovate unused buildings such as 495 Riverside, a former government property now privately owned. This grant incentive is great news for the developer, the students, CCNB Bathurst, and great news for politicians of all stripes and levels, provincial and municipal. Therefore, the thinking goes, everyone wins, i.e. the developer, the politicians, the city, and yes, the students. 5. Residents of Riverside Drive are strongly in favor of developing the property. but do not want the creation of a large 34-person rooming house as proposed. City Council purposely renamed the development proposal, referring to it as student residence. They then placed student residence as a new category of permitted development in Zone IN. There is a high probability that this proposal, as currently presented, could gradually develop into a flophouse, a scenario that very commonly occurs in many towns and cities. The details of the proposal indicate a sole focus on maximizing profit by providing minimal services to as many students as it can squeeze into available space. B. Why are Riverside Drive neighborhood residents upset about the proposed development, as it all seems to make so much sense at first glance? What are the negatives? 1. There is a sense that the City Council seems driven to push the development proposal through regardless of the widespread non-approval and well-founded concerns expressed by most of the neighborhood. To accelerate the development process, the city decided to alter the regulations by creating a new category called student residence, and then quickly inserted this new category as an allowable development within existing Zone IN. 2. Regarding bylaw number 2024-02Z, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2008-01 entitled the City of Bathurst Zoning Bylaw. I am pleased to note that the conditional rezoning agreement, Schedule B, between Dr. Gomez and others, and the city does correctly and unambiguously guarantee in paragraph 6 that the tenants must be students. Quote, prior to the adoption of the rezoning bylaw, applicants shall be required to provide a written document acceptable to City Council describing the means that will be taken by them to ensure and guarantee that the residence will be occupied solely by students enrolled in a post-secondary institution on CCNB campus. However, for consistency to exist between the bylaw and the agreement, Schedule B, and to prevent any loose wiggle room, please note that the wording in the proposed bylaw terminology, paragraph 4, section 2, continues to use the terminology intended solely for students. The word intended must be deleted. Refer to paragraph 4 in bylaw number 2024-02Z. Paragraph 4, section 2, definitions of the City of Bathurst zoning bylaw is amended by adding the following definition after the definition of structure. Student residence means a residence with a single or double room intended solely for students enrolled in a post-secondary institution on the CCNB campus. The residence must also include shared sanitary, culinary, and social facilities. Correcting this inconsistency will protect the city if it should happen to get into a litigation whereby the developer starts renting to non-students in violation of the agreement. The very real potential problem of concern for the neighborhood residents is that the rental to non-students could lead to a rapid deterioration of the housing, resulting in development into an ugly flophouse, in every sense of the word. 3. Regarding Schedule B, agreement between City and Dr. Gomez and others, please refer to paragraph 5 in the proposed agreement, Schedule B. Quote, 5. The student residence shall have a building supervisor or proctor to ensure discipline and report to the owner and to the applicant. A student resident may occupy this function. The city must keep in mind that 495 Riverside, 34 rooming house, named by the city as a student residence, is actually a private business. The company states that it plans to rent solely to students attending the nearby community college. The developer has no legal relationship or obligation of any sort with CCNB College, hence the word proctor is a total misnomer. The 34-bed institution should definitely employ a full-time superintendent who resides on site for numerous obvious reasons. This has always been the case in all places for rental units that I lived in over the years. I think it would show a lack of consideration for its potential student clientele and would be money pinching to simply designate a couple of students as proctors or supervisors to keep an eye on things. These young people are renting rooms to attend college, not look after a rooming house. Also, the verbal commitment by the developer to sweep the floors 3 times a week indicates very poor attention to the daily cleanliness and sanitation issues for a conglomeration of 34 people deciding among themselves who is going to clean the bathrooms, toilets, kitchen and dishes, and other common areas. A rooming house is defined as a residence with a resident operator that can house a maximum of 10 people, including the family of the house operator. A student residence, which in reality is nothing more than a super rooming house, is defined as a building which will propose to house up to 34 students. The owner proposes that the supervision and security be monitored by 2 student residents who would carry the title of proctor or supervisor. This discrepancy makes no sense. Why have a regulation that at 10-person rooming is limited to 10 people and must have a full-time presence of the owner/operator to ensure full-time security, cleanliness, and maintenance, whereas a building proposed to house more than 34 people should be just fine having a couple of students and a camera entrusted to look after everything. This is just a recipe for unsafe, unhealthy, poorly maintained housing. It might be less costly to pay students to act as superintendent, but it is not fair to transfer this responsibility to students whose main aim is to get an education. At the very least, the developer can do is employ a full-time on-site resident building superintendent, whose full-time job and daily responsibilities would include security, plus daily household cleaning and maintenance of bathrooms, toilets, and showers, kitchen, and other common areas. Also, the signed agreement with the city should contain a clause like, quote, should the bylaw enforcement officer identify a non-student other than the superintendent living on 495 Riverside Drive premises, the owner will immediately evict the person, and as a penalty, the owner will forfeit to the city all rent collected from the non-student during his stay. I feel that the inclusion of this agreement clause like this will protect, assure, and guarantee both local neighborhood residents and the city that the developer will never rent to non-students. If the developer refuses to sign an agreement to this effect, the council should view this as a red flag and vote accordingly. Summary. This proposal, if developed as is currently proposed, is not satisfactory for 1. The students, i.e., the current proposal has a very poor and very limited health and cleaning plan and lacks a mandatory on-site full-time resident property superintendent. The concept of 2 student proctors managing a 34-person rooming house is just plain not realistic. Think about it. 2. The city, i.e., the property could be very easily developed into a drug hub type of flophouse, resulting in criminal activity, resulting in added costs for the newly created social and policing problems if developed as loosely as it currently proposed. 3. CCNB, i.e., a poor student housing environment would have a strong negative effect on the students' learning and success rate, leading to the gradual decline in image and quality of the CCNB education as the reputation becomes more widely known. 4. The neighborhood, i.e., residents, would gradually move out of the Riverside area when activities associated with drugs and other criminal activities start to spread. Property values would drop, and Riverside Drive would become known as the strip of slum private rooming houses, some with up to 34 students. The large lot at 495 Riverside Drive remains an excellent piece of land, ripe for residential waterfront development, with its ideal downtown high and dry location with a beautiful view. City Council shouldn't feel that in desperation they must accept just any project, regardless of its questionable quality, just because it provides a band-aid solution to a current housing problem. Signed, Richard Mann. Letter dated February 14th, 2024. Greetings. I wanted to start by saying thank you for your public service. It is not always an easy job. I would like to disclose that I voted and financially supported our mayor and her team. This is my first letter ever of a political nature at any level of government. Actually, I sent the letter to our provincial government to pledge my support of the mill site cleanup. I love our city, the people, what we have to offer, and the potential that it offers. My rally cry for our region: let us go get beyond the potential. I am also a strong supporter of diversity and the benefits of immigration in our region. I am aware of the challenges that students face, as I have befriended some and hired some. I am aware Mr. Richard Mann's letter and believe that he brings up valid concerns. My concerns are as follows. There seems to be a hidden agenda to push this project through as soon as possible. I question some of the information in the PAC presentation to Council. Laws provided from Ontario regarding student status. Those regulations apply to Ontario, not New Brunswick. I am concerned by the size of the project, considering that students will be residing and no full-time security is on site. If you have gone to the university and were in residence, you know exactly what it can look like. I did not appreciate Mr. Bouffard's 10,000 feet elevation to give the optics that we have mixed zoning diversity. Zoom in. The project is surrounded by residential low-density properties. As councillors, you have an obligation to strike a balance between sustainable development, the social economic impact, and the precedent that your decisions create. Mr. Mann's letter brings up a lot of important points around wording in what seems like chinks in the armor. What will our city do to prevent this project from becoming a future flophouse? I end by saying that I do not support this project as it currently presented. My preference would be to see a 48-unit, 2-bedroom with balconies overlooking the ocean, indoor parking at ground level. There's also a need for that type of development in our region and potentially a better fit. Thank you for taking the time to consider my views on this project. Signed, Michelle A. Arsenault. Letter dated February 13th, 2024. Dear Mayor and Council, my name is Charlene Willett, and I reside at 764 Riverside Drive and have been living here for most of my life. My current house is my homestead, where I grew up. Next door to my house, 750 Riverside, and up to about 3 years ago, my cousin was the owner of that house, which was owned by her father and my grandparents before them. Approximately 3 years ago, 750 Riverside Drive was sold and converted into student housing, where there can be anywhere from 6 to 10 unsupervised students renting rooms in 2 different apartments. That being said, please allow me to give my opinion on the matter and why I would be opposed to the amending bylaw 2008-01 regarding the property located at 495 Riverside Drive. Firstly, I would like to point out that the students have always been very polite to talk to, and I understand that they need housing while attending CCNB. The following is what concerns me. 1. The garbage. Most times after we've had some north winds, I have to pick up garbage that was left lying around their yard that flew into our yard because of the wind. I've also noticed that sometimes they do not use the garbage bags. They empty their trash/food items directly into the garbage bin. If the black bin is full, they sometimes put garbage in the recycling bin. Even noticed a few times they put garbage in our bin when we were not home or late at night. Last summer, Orkin, Pest Control, were over at the neighbors several times. I inquired why they were there, and it was told it was because of cockroach infestation. I was very stressed and concerned that this infestation would be close enough to contaminate my household as well. Thankfully, for the people from Orkin reassured me that the infestation would be under control and I should be okay. 2. The noise. Oftentimes, I have to contend with early morning, 5:30 to 6 a.m., blaring music from vehicles, which are right next to my bedroom. This also occurs late at night, past midnight. Also, from time to time, the students have gatherings, which also creates excessive noise and screaming late at night. In one instance, someone even threw up on my lawn, which I made them pick up. This brings me to my 3rd point. Boundaries. I've had to resort to putting metal T-bars, fence posts, along the north side of my property, as they do not respect the boundaries. I've seen them drive all over my lawn, resulting in many repairs every year. Still to this day, I need to go out and repair/unbend the T-bars because they keep running over them, because they keep getting run over by student vehicles. In some instances, the students park all along the street, both sides, in front of the neighbors' driveways, and even blocking the fire hydrant access when they visit or have gatherings. I understand that these issues should be the responsibility of the owner. However, it is not pleasant to be the neighbor having to complain on multiple occasions to the owner of the property. This adds stress to the residents who have been living here in the area for many years, and I don't wish the stress to my fellow neighborhood friends that will have to deal with the issues of increased traffic. My other fear is that if the property located at 495 Riverside gets approved for rezoning, my neighbor will also apply to have his property rezoned as well, as he had already mentioned last year that his intentions were to expand the house to all 3 boundary lines to add an additional 20+ units to the property. If this was to happen, then what? If the rezoning of the property located at 495 Riverside Drive goes through, it may also encourage future house buyers to convert houses into student residences, decreasing the value of housing in a residential neighborhood and significantly increasing traffic of our once peaceful area of town. Please make the right decision and reject the application for rezoning at 495 Riverside Drive. P.S. See pictures attached from the evening of February 11th, 2024. This proof of what have been going on since the household next door has become a student residence. It is unsafe for pedestrians as the sidewalks are not accessible and also unsafe for traffic when parked on both sides of the street. Sincerely, Charlene Willett. A letter dated February 14th, 2024. This letter is a follow-up to the one I submitted on January 2nd and serves as a second objection letter regarding the application for an amendment and the rezoning of the bylaw for the property located at 495 Riverside Drive, having the PID number 200085553. I live directly across the street from the above-noted property and therefore am directly impacted by the proposed development. Following the presentations given by the applicants and Mr. Buffard, I have many concerns and objections to the zoning amendment, some of which I will attempt to outline in this letter. 1. The proposed rezoning will have a negative effect on nearby property values. Section 16.2 of the city's municipal plan states in part, quote, one of the main reasons for zoning is to protect existing uses from infringement by incompatible development, i.e., maintain and protect property values. The proposed development is inconsistent with the character of the adjacent homes on Riverside Drive. The vast majority of the properties surrounding the proposed development are zoned R2 and medium density. A student housing development does not fall into these categories and is against the city zoning bylaw. The nearby residents have chosen to live in this area because it is primarily zoned residential area, and the residents have a reasonable right to expect that this zoning bylaw are in place to protect our property values and to ensure that any proposed development is consistent with the existing zoning in order to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood. Mr. Buffard pointed out that there are numerous types of zoning in the surrounding area, not solely residential. This can be said about most areas within the city. For example, Sycamore Street is in the residential area, but there are other types of zoning surrounding it. There is a hospital, daycare, apartments, townhouses, etc. Parkwood Heights is mostly residential, but nearby there are apartment buildings, a daycare, fire department, businesses, a school. Isn't what's important in that the majority of the zoning closest to the proposed development is residential? And shouldn't the voice of the residents and taxpayers that will be most impacted by an amendment to this bylaw be a priority? 2. The initial application was for a rooming house, and that concept has not changed. The developers have changed the wording of the application to suit their agenda and to seek empathy from the public. However, changing the wording to student residence and student dormitory does not change their definitions. The proposed development is, by definition, a rooming house, to wit. By definition, a room with a shared kitchen and or washroom is known as a multi-tenant house, a rooming house, or single rooming occupancy. As per the city bylaw, a rooming house must be owner-occupied and is limited to 10 bedrooms. Therefore, the developers cannot make this application. However, student housing is defined as a type of residential unit that is owned or leased by a school or university, serves as housing exclusively for its students and selected staff, and is not made available to the general public, whereas dormitory means any on-campus accommodation offered by a school. It is important to note that the wording matters as it comes with different laws and implications, and should not be taken lightly. To rush into approving zoning changes without full comprehension of what the implications are would be irresponsible on council's part. 3. Policing. If the rezoning is approved, it was stated by council and that the city will impose various regulations that the developers are required to follow. For example, they must require that this is a student housing complex and that students must provide proof of ongoing enrollment in CCNB in order to reside there. How will this be monitored? They would have to have somebody verifying this constantly. What is stopping students from having others share their rooms? There could be 60+ people living there at a time. Is the student supervisor responsible to knock on every bedroom door asking for ID? There will be a requirement that a person be hired to supervise each floor of the development 24/7. As of the presentation of February 5th, Mr. Buffard has informed council that they intend on having a student supervisor. How realistic do you think this is? First of all, how will it be 24/7 if the student is enrolled in school? How is the student expected to supervise 34 students from various diverse ethnic, religious, cultural backgrounds? In my opinion, this would not only be irresponsible, but unsafe for all involved. How does the city of Bathurst plan on policing this? The developers already own many rental properties. Looking after a 34-room dormitory would be a full-time job. Also, it would be next to impossible for the public to know whether the regulations that the city has put in place are being followed. And all this is to be enforced by the city's bylaw officer? Is it realistic to expect that the bylaw officer would have the time and capability to ensure that the regulations are being enforced? 4, safety issues. Increased traffic. This is already a high traffic area. The proposed development would be dangerous for the children of the neighborhood that walk to and from Superior Middle School every day. Increased traffic would be dangerous for the multitude of residents who walk Riverside Drive as part of the Three Bridges route. Students at the proposed development will be required to cross the already busy Riverside Drive to College Street, making it a safety issue for the students, motorists, and residents. Although College Street is a designated one-way street, it is already often used as a two-way street. I live on the corner and witness this on a daily basis. This will only increase, creating more safety issues. There is a reason that the responsibility of student housing should be that of the institution that enroll them, colleges/universities. These institutions are licensed and equipped to operate student dormitories, and for safety and legal reasons, they are strictly enforced regulations in place to protect both institutions and the students alike. If this type of development continues to be encouraged in our residential neighborhoods, the city landscape will become a mass of rentals and rooming houses, and our residential neighborhoods will get pushed further and further out of the city. This is why our existing bylaws are so important, to protect and preserve the character of our city so that people who will want to stay here and others will be encouraged to move here. In closing, Council must remember that the businessmen that have made this application are in it to make a profit, and it is their right to do so. Their concern is not to preserve and improve our community landscape. It is to expand their business, and I do not fault them for that. However, the priority of City Council should be the obligation to listen to the objections of the nearby taxpayers and the residents that this development will affect the most. The vast majority of the nearby residents have objected and petitioned against this development. The residents and taxpayers of the City of Bathurst should be able to rely on City Council to uphold the city's bylaws and know that our voices are being heard and that they matter. Based on these concerns/objections and those of my neighbors, I respectfully request City Council take very serious and careful consideration of this amendment rezoning application. Sincerely, Marilyn Gallagher. Letter dated January 31st, 2024. I have lived on Riverside Drive for more than 75 years. In other words, that is well before you were born. It is the continuity that develops a neighborhood, a community. This makes the area special to the people who live there. What is a neighborhood? It is a place where a group of people live, mixed from infants to seniors. It is a place where neighbors chat with each other. It is an area where neighbors help each other in many different tasks. We take pride in the upkeep of our properties. We enjoy our neighborhood and the status of living that it provides. It is our home. We have worked hard at improving our neighborhood. Now you are considering changing bylaw regulations so as to allow a 32/34 bed rooming house. This certainly helps destroy the concept of neighborhood. A municipality is made up of neighborhoods, each with a common and sometimes distinct set of values. However, a neighborhood. As stated above, our neighborhood is based on togetherness, comradeship, quiet area where neighbors pull together as is demonstrated by our letters and meeting attendance. This happens because of the longevity of the homeowners and the mixed families that live here. We are permanent residents with a lot of common goals, a neighborhood. I ask you, how does a rooming house of 34 fit into a neighborhood? It does not. It is a hindrance. As many of us are aging, we will need to sell our homes. A neighborhood would like to see families move into them. Who wants to move into an area with a 34-person rooming house? Can the developers and council guarantee a quiet neighborhood for the years to come? Not likely. I have stayed in quite a few residences over the years, and many times it was a party time. These proposed clientele are young, not seniors who will party. They are normal, contrary to what one of the developers stated, that he has other properties and has no trouble. However, I have noticed on occasion there have been police cars there. Just a social visit? I think not. Once troublemakers are in your rental, it is very difficult to remove them. Thus, the problem persists. By the way, who will monitor the likely disturbances? Have you taken any of these predictable problems into consideration? Also, what about the residents who have taken pride in their lots? built up equity in their homes, and paid taxes over the years, only to find out how much harder it will be to sell our homes because of the proposed bylaw change. As a matter of fact, a newer resident of the neighborhood has said they bought their home not to have a 34-bed rooming house next door. They would probably sell. Great scenario, isn't it? Lose a permanent citizen for what? Think. These residents have put a lot of money into renovations. Remember, we are the voting citizens of Bathurst, not the transient residents. The students don't stay here after they graduate. Permanent residents do. As a council, who do you represent? Transients or permanent residents? Transients or longtime taxpayers? In my opinion, anybody with respect to the families and senior taxpaying citizens, a conscience, a logical thinker, and a person who will do the right thing will oppose this change to the bylaw. Signed, William Mean. Letter dated February 12, 2024. I have a wealth of experience in regards to residence living, boarding house living, as well as apartment and rented house living. For 30 years, I have had CCMB students staying at a residence along with summer working students with the Department of Lands and Mines. The behavior and respect of the summer working students were closely monitored by their employers. Therefore, I speak from experience, not empathy. How many of you counselors can match that? The student residence, as you are so calling it, is comprised of late teens and early 20-year-olds. If you think that they are going to be quiet and studying all the time, they will not. Since so many are in more congested area, they will party even more. As the parties happen, the noise will increase to late hours, friends will drop in. The 34 students will grow to 50, and many with noisy, loud cars. As a matter of fact, a former Bathurst City policeman who lived across the street from us complained that their newborn was being kept awake by the noisy cars in our driveway. These were the cars of the due drop-ins at noon hour and different times of the day. These people used our facilities, made noise, etc. We ended up evicting them because they could not curb their due drop-ins. We were the landlords living in the same building. Who will do this in your residence? Believe me, there will be many more vehicles in that residence than available parking spaces. There will be altercations as someone's food is taken from the refrigerator. I have experienced this with only 3 other people. I have stayed in a 13-bed rooming house with the landlord living in the dwelling. Breakfast and supper were provided at set times. There were rules to follow, and if they were broken, those people were evicted. That did happen because the landlord, not a proctor, was living there. One person was evicted. This proposal goes against the development of a neighborhood, as was explained in another letter. None of you on council or PAC live in the immediate area of 495 Riverside Drive. I need not say more about your forthcoming decision. Think how you would vote if this was in your backyard. One of the proposed developers lives outside the city, and the other on Bayshore Drive, which is definitely not close to the proposed development. A letter of support from CCMB was presented in support of the rooming house, and he lives in Salmon Beach area. Where do the affected citizens live? In proximity of 495 Riverside Drive. As I write this letter, I have on Wednesday, February 6th, requested a telephone conversation with the mayor at her convenience. She has not responded as of yet, 5 days. I have been able to speak to other councillors by phone and in person. Just arrived today. Quote, "Good morning, Bill. I will not be discussing the bylaw change for 495 Riverside Drive. We will let the process as per the rules and regulation. You will have your opportunity to speak on February 20th during the public meeting." Quite a response from the chief elected official of the city. We have worked extremely hard at putting our points forward. This is a definite slap in the face when the mayor cannot speak on an issue that the citizens of Bathurst need to understand her thoughts for or against the proposal. Are her reasons based on fact? It is important that all should know this. And to think, governments are always pushing for transparency. The workload for the new proposed bylaw has fallen on the shoulders of those in protest of the proposal. The developers has done nothing, and Mr. Bouffard is simply following the wishes of PAC and just changes his proposal in regards to what we protest. This should be the opposite way around. You should make the bylaw, and we, the protesters, put legal holes into it. In other words, we, the protesters, do our work, but the city and developer must do their own work. I was told that I could not read my letters at the February 20th meeting. This negates the emphasis and eye contact with the council, not a level playing field. The council may say all the things they are going to do, but in fact, an amendment is just a vote away. For example, suppose the renovations were only 75% finished in the allotted time, 24 months. Would the city say time's up? Further, bylaws can be appealed to the provincial body where the concerns of the citizens will be heard. Ramblings, RE. Bylaws, policies, etc. One meeting, water meters, next meeting, different policy. This has caused a lot of criticism. Policy not to support parks, new one in Victoria Street area. I wonder how the councillor from that area voted. Building permit, rejected to a person in U-Haul with numerous buildings of the same nature in the area and no objection from the next door neighbor. What would happen if this building was destroyed? Is it only a student residence? That can be on the property? What if the developers sell to another outside the city? Then I would like you to make yourself knowledgeable of the present situation in St. Stephen, New Brunswick. It is similar to the residences on Clearwater Avenue, building on Miramichi Avenue next to Chicken King and 320 Murray Avenue next to Papa Joe and Evie's. There are cases that take a long while to rectify because of the legalities. Likewise, remember the mill? Everyone was in favor. However, the remains are still there. This may be the case for some time to come, as there are many legalities involved. The way amendments and policies come about, this could become proposed residence, could very easily become a flop house. We are all for proper development of the property. This proposal is not proper development. The situation that Bathurst is in regards to housing is not the fault of the citizens. If blame is to be thrown, then it is at CCMB, provincial and federal governments with their money grab. It is they who need to find a solution that is not a detriment to this neighborhood and the citizens of Bathurst. What about the vacant land across on College Hill, directly across from CCMB? I'm sure the owner of the property is interested. And again, shouldn't the city be looking after the homeless citizens of Bathurst before transient residents? Yours truly, William Mean. Letter dated February 16, 2024. Further to my letter dated January 17, 2024, in closing our first petition of 92 signatures regarding the rezoning of the above property, which was declared invalid by the mayor through no fault of our own, it was due to an application of the original rezoning being changed by the applicants and PAC. I now enclose a second petition consisting of 139 signatures of objection signed by nearby residents and/or concerned citizens of Bathurst to the above property. Let it also be noted that there were many other residents wanting to sign. However, time constraints in this process have not allowed us to obtain those signatures. We request that the Mayor and City Council take very serious and careful consideration of our objections to the amendment rezoning application before approving anything that is not in the best interest and safety of the nearby residents, taxpayers, and concerned citizens, nor something that potentially violates the municipal plan and existing bylaws of the City of Bathurst. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Signed, Marilyn Gallagher and Michaela Savoie. Letter dated February 15, 2024. To Bathurst City Council, I am strongly opposed to the creation of a rooming house, which has been proposed for 495 Riverside Drive. The rezoning request to allow conversion of the old DNR building into a very high-density, self-regulating rooming house for 32 students is a prescription for disaster and could result in the creation many types of potential disturbances, noises, drugs, undesirables, etc., in our lovely neighborhood. The proposal would allow anyone, even non-students, to live there. I don't want to live near a flop house. Signed, Robert White. Letter dated February 15, 2024. Further to my conversation with you last week regarding the application by a developer to create what they call student residence housing at 495 Riverside Drive and propose handicap accessibility required by law. Many issues have been brought to the city's attention by the residents who will be affected by the proposed development. My concern at this point is accessibility in the neighborhood as well as within the building. Study will be required to make the building accessible for all. If a student is in a wheelchair, most things such as a lift to all 3 floors, wider door openings on all room entrances, ramps where required outside, and adaptations of the kitchens and bathroom facilities will be required, with mobile up and down counters. They must ensure that they can exit the building in case of an emergency easily. If handicapped students are not in a wheelchair but are unable to see well or walk quickly, this must be adapted also in the plan. These considerations must be given to students when outside the building as well. Fencing should be installed to delineate the boundaries of the property as it is on a high cliff fronted by a busy street. As well, because of the rise of the land, when traveling south by car in front of the building, major adjustments and installations are required on the roadway. Wide walkways will be required. Slower car speeds will be needed and addressed with signage that lights up. Traffic lights need to be installed at the entrances of both ends of the present driveway. Possibly the southernmost driveway entrance closest to College Street could be blocked as the lights of cars exiting will flash into residences on the corner. Less interference would be had at the northern exit close to the culvert bridge. I find it mind-boggling to think of all the things that could have been addressed with this property, and I am sorry that none of these issues have been mentioned. By citing them, I feel that we, the neighbors, are shouldering the responsibility for keeping our neighborhoods safe, and I am surprised that few have been mentioned by the developer or the City of Bathurst. Please remember, these are students. Some people using wheelchairs can't always be seen by someone speeding, especially at night. Likewise, someone sight impaired might not see them. We must address these issues. Thank you for your invitation to send my concerns in writing. Jean-François Cousin. Letter dated February 15th, 2024. Currently in the Riverside Drive area, including the off-branch of College Street and Hornybrook Court, there are existing numerous homes which were converted to a boarding house where many individuals, namely students, reside. The addition of another building renovated for student residences will lead to the depreciation of the property value for many properties nearby. Hardworking citizens who have purchased a home along the picturesque waterside expect to retain or increase their property value, not for it to depreciate. These student residences are not regulated nor maintained, as they are not operated/governed by a college or university. They are purchased for monetary gain and intend to fill rooms with as many tenants as possible without much regard for the premises. One drive up College Street is enough proof of this. However, the location of 640 Riverside Drive, a house where residents reside, has also become an eyesore. For almost 2 years now, there has been a part of the shutter missing, some siding is missing, and the front porch is pulling away from the house. Additionally, last summer, on that same property, the grass was left to grow for months as it was only mowed in late August. At times, when an individual or entity purchases a property as an investment and it is non-owner occupied, pride is not taken with the property and building. It can become an unsightly premises, and we feel it will not take long for the property at 495 Riverside Drive to also become neglected. The City of Bathurst does not need additional buildings and/or properties to become neglected. It is stated, applicants shall be required to provide a written document acceptable to City Council describing the means that will be taken by them to ensure and guarantee that the residence will be occupied solely by students enrolled in the post-secondary institution on the CCMB campus. What exactly are the conditions and details City Council will deem acceptable? Should there not be a consultation with homeowners in the area as to acceptable conditions? How will the applicants submit in writing be enforced? There will be no formal security on site to monitor the activities of 34 individuals who will reside at the student residence. Only a building supervisor or proctor is required to ensure discipline and report back to the owner and to the applicant. And it is indicated a student resident may occupy this function. To permit a student who will be studying, going to school during the day, and sleeping at night to occupy this function does not seem ideal, considering what the responsibility should entail. There's already significant increased traffic and noise due to other dwellings currently on Queen Street, Riverside Drive, College Street, and Hornybrook Court. Which house students? Adopting bylaw number 2024-02Z, to allow student housing will allow for an even greater increase in traffic and noise in an already busy area. There will be traffic going in and out of that property on a very busy roadway, and there will likely be an increase of accidents. Also, there are many children who reside close to this location, and there is a potential of increased accidents and close calls involving them. These major increases in traffic and noise at 495 Riverside Drive are not welcome. Overall, we feel this development is not in the best interest of the citizens of Riverside Drive. We are completely opposed to it and strongly urge you to consider not adopting bylaw number 2024-02Z to permit the development of a student housing at 495 Riverside Drive, PID number 20008553. We have also signed a petition regarding opposition of the amendment to this bylaw. Regards, Paula Panko-Fogan and Darren Fogan. Letter dated February 14th, 2024. The motion being considered is to amend the zoning bylaw to allow for a new institutional designation for a student residence. This is hard to understand when there is no link to CCNB besides the fact that the developers hope to have students from the college fill the 34 rooms. Neither the Community Planning Act nor the municipal plan allow for an additional use under the zoning bylaw without amending the municipal plan. The province of New Brunswick has recently prepared a document, NB Housing Strategy, Housing for All. And this document has been helpful information, including financial assistance for undertaking a feasibility study involving all stakeholders. It also recognizes and states that student residences belong to on-college campuses and provides guidance and grants to encourage on-campus housing. Importantly, by creating student housing on campuses, the NB Housing Strategy emphasizes that municipalities will have a larger inventory of housing for non-student New Brunswickers. Affordable housing, of which student housing is on subset, is not a problem unique to Bathurst. Council needs to ensure that the proper reflection and study occurs before making a decision on this critical matter. There are resources available. There is an opportunity to get this right. There are many interested groups and stakeholders, and there are funds available to assist in the development and implementation of the right strategies for our city. Council can take advantage of the provincial grants to create a study group to review affordable housing opportunities in the city. In the meantime, Council must defeat this motion, as it is not compliant with the statutory, provincial, and municipal legislation and regulations and violates sections 24, 53, and 54 of the Community Planning Act. Best regards, Sarah Ernst. Letter dated February 16th, 2024. To the Bathurst City Clerk, Mayor, and Councillors. By this letter, I object to the zoning/bylaw amendments for 495 Riverside Drive, PID number 200-08553, which is institutional to allow for student residence for the following reasons. The proposed zoning amendment is inconsistent with the residential zoning of Riverside Drive and should preserve its character and remain residential R1/R2, and institutional zoning should only include what is currently permitted. The definitions that defines student residence created by the City of Bathurst is inconsistent to a true definition of student residence. All appears to be rushed to meet a predetermined agenda, leading to gaps and sudden shift in the strategy, impacting the timeliness of information provided and underestimated the residents' reaction. The location of the building does not permit effective safety and security of tenants with no access to a boardwalk without having to cross the street. This would result in a constant flow of people crossing the street, walking or biking in a section where the visibility is not ideal, with a high speed limit. My kids take the bus every day, and while flashing lights are going on, a big yellow bus, some cars simply don't stop. Public health and safety overall does not come across as having been considered whatsoever. In several municipalities within the Outside New Brunswick study, and effective engagement with its residents. I have been living on Riverside Drive since 2013, and I have observed the great work completed to beautify our city. I considered it safe to raise my family of 6 in this residential neighborhood. It was our choice to live in a residential neighborhood. And Riverside Drive was the ideal part of town, with it being within walking distance from the downtown area. The investments made at the waterfront, the Parc Richelieu, and the green trails all link back to Riverside Drive. Whether intentional or not, Riverside Drive is part of a circuit that some people commonly call the Three Bridges. People from town and out of town walk this street and love it. My fellow neighbors on this street care for their property, and if we'd rank the city's nicest streets, Riverside Drive would likely be in the top 5. It is also a very quiet residential area during the evening/night where you can't even feel the proximity of the downtown area. I studied at the CCMB Bathurst in 2012. I have walked this neighborhood countless times, and the statement I can make today, in 2024, is that the vast majority of houses near the college have been converted to apartment/rooming houses. With the college's intention to push for further international students and eventually move U-Haul near or around College Street, most houses are going on the market in the Riverside Drive area will end up being defined as apartments when they clearly are rooming house. This will result in a complete shift of the Riverside Drive scenery and be detrimental to the efforts previously made by the city. Other areas in Bathurst would be more suitable for a development in medium density, however, should not be done to the detriment of those opted to live in a residential area. The CCMB should take its responsibility as per recent intervention from the federal government that states, quote, "We expect learning institutions to only accept the number of students that they can provide adequate supports for, including housing options. I love our city, and for those reasons, Riverside Drive must keep its character, and we should take examples from other cities who have made informed decisions to maintain the integrity of key specific neighborhoods while ensuring a collaborative approach with its residents. There are other options to explore. The city can find creative ways to either create incentive to steer potential promoter in the right direction in being focused on residential, high-end apartment, condos, etc., which would help maximize the full potential and that beautiful location. I trust the council will carefully consider the reasons and object to the current zoning/amendment request. Sincerely, Michael Savoie." That was all the letters.
All right, okay. So I now invite members of the public to express their opinions to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to 495 Riverside Drive. You may come to the podium. Votre nom et adresse, s'il vous plaît. Your name and your address. Oh, sorry. Just hold on. I'm going to give you the mic. Okay, sorry about that.
So my name is Michael Savoie, and I live at 504 Riverside Drive. So if you allow, Madam Mayor, just thank you for allowing me for taking extra time of your time. We've already heard a lot from the reading. I think, Ms. Parker, you deserve your paycheck. So, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, I just want to extend a thanks to those who actually reached out and had the discussion. You know who you are. The one thing I want to make clear also from the onset is one, I want to highlight the great support I've had from Ms. Parker to gain some trust in this whole process. Always been very open, open to hear, question, discuss, talking over the phone. So very much appreciate. I know you've been extensively busy, so I just wanted to highlight it. The one thing I want to start off with is really, I wouldn't be here if I didn't like and didn't love the city. I'm not originally from here. I studied here, I left and returned. I love this city, as I said in my letter. I've always been living close proximity to Riverside Drive. I've stayed at Chalmers Court when I was a student. It was awful, to be quite honest. I was probably one of the students that I can agree that I wasn't the most, I could have been a nuance to some of the neighbors, to be quite honest. I'm very glad and grateful that that's not what's followed me along the years. But I'll just go and start their presentation. I'll try to make it very quick because I recognize the time as well, but really want to make sure that we're focusing and talking about the kind of the main overall points. Figure that having a visual and being able to kind of read it out would facilitate what we're trying to come across. So like I said, like I love the city, and it really needs to be understood in that scope. It's really that more long-term, like strategical view of how do we want to position the city long-term, and obviously the information that's been provided, while it's been noted in the previous presentation that we need to be very careful about any discrimination, it is in fact discrimination the way it's actually proposed in the amendments. It is discrimination which goes against the Bathurst City Code of Conduct as per the New Brunswick Human Rights. And I'll go a little bit more in detail. This is just a high-level overview of what's in the presentation. It does not consider any of the public health, safety, and of the students and or the Bathurst residents, which is a key role of the planner, and that's part of the Canadian Institute of Planner. It's also part of the local New Brunswick planner. These are key important things that have not seen or come across in the earlier presentation. And the rezoning is against the municipal plan. And I'll go into more detail just to show some tangible proof to that as to reasons why to object. Obviously, I think you can all agree that throughout the process, there's been some like 360 where it was this, then it's this. It really didn't help anyone's cause, to be quite honest. It was a little bit disappointing at some times where we were trying to come very informed and come to the table with information, yet we were being provided with additional information that we had not been provided with. A big key important things, and that's the word I want to focus on here, is, and it's more specific on the environment and local government, it's ensuring sufficient public consultation. And I would say that I would not consider this tonight as a public consultation. This is basically as part of the typical process. Is we are sending the objection letters, we can attend public meetings, etc. But there has been no consultation when it's clear that we need to ensure sufficient public consultation takes place for bylaws, which I think is what is really of a concern here for any planning and development is very important. So, and it really just resonates in all sphere, whether it's from the mission statement of the city, whether it's through the Canadian Institute of Planner, or even in the municipal plan section C for public involvement. So with respect to discrimination towards its residents, is the current way it's being framed is for CCNB students. Just to give a kind of a little bit of a, I guess, an explanation for those who might be working in the field, whether you're working in an industry or you have experience of working in the mill or else, the whole thing is almost like a situation where there's something that's broken. We're going to fix bits and pieces of it until it actually breaks down. The purpose here is really, let's try to look at the bigger picture, and let's not try to fit a square peg in a round hole right now, because down the road things will break. It would be the same thing in the automobile industry. You wouldn't be repairing a car with from like a dealership using a junkyard, I guess, parts to actually fit into a car that you need to get fixed. You'll actually do things right to make sure that things are going to be working for a long term. With respect to discrimination towards students, and the excerpt from the bylaw amendment is really specific on student residents, and it's been mentioned in the letters that it's inconsistent, for one, in any other definition that I've been able to search. I must apologize to my wife. I've not seen her for 2 weeks in working on this. Really, it's narrow focus. Think of it as if there would be another post-secondary institution that would come along. Think about it from a student that actually resides in Bathurst, but actually does this study virtually with a university or else. They're still considered a student, yet they would be denied access to a student as defined by the city, which is incorrect. I know it was mentioned about the Ontario human rights. I actually have in writing here from the New Brunswick human rights, where basically I'll just paraphrase briefly what the answer would be, is if a private landlord is refusing housing to someone because they are not student, then this might be considered discrimination based on social condition. If someone is refused housing before they are not, because they are not a student, they can pursue complaint under grounds of social condition. So the way it's being framed right now is definitely discrimination. So I think it really needs to be taken with caution, the way things are being spelled out as is. Additionally, given that this is not being overseen by an institution, namely the college, the CCND, which this is considered just a residential tenancy as per Housing New Brunswick. I also have that confirmation in writing. If they're not official, so that's one of the pieces for the discrimination towards Bathurst resident. The municipal plan, I know it's gonna, like, eyebrows are kind of probably be like, oh goodness, maintain, protect, and property value. It is in fact in the municipal plan. It is something that zoning as per the municipal plan is for short-term tool to steer growth in the direction indicated in the municipal plan. And on top of that, we're talking about controls are in place on the proposed to reduce conflict with any adjacent nearby use by reason of type. There's traffic generation, access to and from, etc., including parking. So in the Section 28 of the Community Planning Act, it does stipulate that if there is a conflict between the municipal plan and zoning or subdivision bylaw, the municipal plan prevails. And someone might wonder, like, how will this impact property value? It's going to be an investment. It's going to be something that will beautify the property. I would disagree, because there has been some studies that have been done, and you'll all recognize Wolfville, Nova Scotia is a university town. There has been some studies that have actually correlated the sound level has an impact on property value and is a systemic problem with student housing. And I'm not making this up. I did put the references at the end of the presentation if you want to consult the study. It's a very thorough study that's been completed. In addition to that, I did find a study that was completed by the City of Ottawa. It's unfortunately in French, but I've had some great results translating in ChatGPT with pretty a good accuracy. And I'll read some of it. It comes from economics and analysis. And it really touches on that noise nuisance that we've talked about, which then links to that Wolfville study. So it says, the struggle against noise nuances is one of the most challenging areas to regulate. Municipalities receive many complaints about noise disturbances, especially in multi-tenant building or in off-campus housing area intended for post-secondary students. Noise is also associated with health issues, according to a study conducted in the Netherlands. There is a correlation between residential noise and headaches, cardiovascular symptoms, and other negative effects. I did not make this up. This is in the study. You can certainly read more about it at your leisure. The second piece is where I find it interesting, and I really want to look at kind of not just the negative here, but really the flip side. Where could we take this from here and kind of do as next steps for the city of Bathurst? And it just shows the distinction between what one city did versus another. And it's really the way they've tackled this that makes a big difference. So post-secondary student accommodation posed quite a puzzle for regulatory bodies. In Kingston, those located near Queen's University are in traditionally very family-oriented neighborhoods, leading to numerous complaints about noise, poor building maintenance, and parking violation. The city has attempted to use certain zoning regulation and property standards, but with limited success due to legal issues and the inefficiency of the complaint-based enforcement regime. On the other hand, Waterloo has implemented stricter regulations requiring any landlord renting out a small residential building to obtain a rental permit. Housing with 5 or more bedrooms, often the case with off-campus student housing, must comply with regulation governing rooming house and boarding house as defined in the Fire Prevention Code, Building Code, and any zoning bylaw. Owner must apply for permit annually and submit forms for electrical systems and heating installation inspections. They must also provide the city with a property maintenance plan. The enforcement or regulation through the Fire Prevention Code Prevention Office has proven effective in managing the city's student accommodation. So there are opportunities here to not discount, to really look at, and really points back to that whole protecting whoever goes there, protecting our citizens, protecting the resident, protecting those that are coming from abroad to study here. I think we want to be city where people can feel safe and secure in where they're going to be residing. So bottom line, there is a direct correlation with the property values, which in turn goes directly against the municipal plan. There's also some inconsistencies, and I've not listed them all, and Mr. Buffal may correct me if ever, but in the presentation we're talking about 82 units per hectare for medium density, whereas in the municipal plan, what I've been able to find from the city municipal plan, we're talking about 15 units per hectare, which would mean this would be at 29 units and not necessarily the 48 unit that's been showcased. It's also unclear to me whether or not the 15% slope as per zoning bylaw 3.3.2 has been considered, as if you've ever driven close to that property, it is steep sloped. There's 2-3 accesses basically to the building. One is very, very sloped. The back end is heavily sloped as well. So that's one piece that to me is a little bit unclear. As Mr. Buffon mentioned as well, like there's also, we're talking about dormitory, we're talking about, like, there's a lot of inconsistencies with respect to the wording that we've used, which has caused some differences in how the community is actually seeing this project because of the shift from accommodating some students at the beginning, this being a dormitory, now being a student residence. It's a flip-flop, and we're being perceived by, oh, we're against X. We're not. It's basically, if we're going back to basics, this is a rooming house by definition. It is just been inserted as a student residence just to meet the purpose of the goal in the plan. There's also been something that's been talked, and I know that I won't spend too much time on this because Mr. Buffal did mention they would follow the code. So, but to me, on the plan, there is no clear indication that the promoter intends to ensure that this place is accessible for people, which is a requirement. I get it's under the code, but regardless, this should have been factored in when putting in the plan with respect to parking spots, with respect to washrooms, to plans, and I would also challenge on the actual sizing of the rooms. I'm not sure they're adequate. At least I can't visually confirm whether they're actually meeting the code as provided. Just using the perimeter of the building, making their own calculation based on the code, this would not meet the code. So this would need to be reviewed and the plan would need to be adjusted. Crosswalk, sidewalk, parking. That piece of information was from the PAC meeting on January 23rd, where the meeting was adjourned. We left the room as residents and there were further conversations. It was noted, and I quote, student walk from all over city to get to CCNB and crossing Riverside would not be problematic. I disagree. Maybe that's my own statement or my own interpretation, but I'm not sure on what ground that stands. As per municipal plan, Riverside is a collector road. It's a road where there's a lot of traffic. If you actually park on Riverside from 7:30 to 8:30 or 9, it's constant traffic. So I can't see how this would be okay, especially with the fact that they would have to cross the street. There's no crosswalk. There's no consideration that's been factored into the project, which is another key element of the planner's role to make sure that this is covered. Increasing the density, I think, and that's again just in that scope of looking at long term, it really is, I think, I'd like to see what do we want to do with that college moving up the Y'all to moving to College Street. Everything that is done for development for students below the east of university, so I'm talking about that CN bridge, anything on east of that bridge is obviously potential for problems because there is no sidewalk, there's no clear access from students to go from one end to college, and it increases the risk for these students. Usually it's very icy as well. If you've ever walked those streets, you would know. There definitely is some challenges there. Again, on the parking, the 15% slope, again, as I mentioned before, and as per the bylaw, there's a 3-meter limit as per the section 4.5.1. So it's difficult for me to really understand whether this was considered or not, and is it even appropriate to have parking spots alongside the water in the back. There's also parking spots that have been drawn on the plan where there's an actual entrance or back door. I'll show in the plan on the Annex 2 later. For me, the one big common, the one big piece to consider as well is what is that common denominator right now from the list that was shared by Mr. Bouffard on what is considered under the current institution. And most of them operate between 8:30, 4:30. There's almost limited to nil traffic outside normal hours. There's constant on-site management, like whether it's a group home, like honestly, personally, if there'd be a group home there, I don't mind, I don't care. There'd be someone there to take care, someone to oversee the building, someone to take care of those residents. And I think that's really what, it goes back to all of the points where there needs to be security on site 24/7, whether we call it security, but it really can't be a student as it's currently being labeled. In the Community Planning Act Municipal Plan, it does allow for those amendments, but I think we need to remember that this would set a precedent and making it very difficult for council to reject any future. I think it's one of my neighbor here that mentioned that quite possibly their neighbor could be requesting for institutional rezoning, which would go through the same hoops, but ultimately how can you deny one and not deny the other? There's also other institutional zone area in Bathurst that could also be seeking for the same type of amendment. The other thing is that this could generate some impacts within other jurisdictions as well. So what's the difference between a student residence and what's being proposed here as a student residence? You can do the comparable in the student residence, and for those who've actually been in a university and been a residence can probably attest to that. The list I've got there, they do have a contract. It's on campus more often than none. There is a manager assigned to the actual house or building. There is on-site security typically from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. There is clear community standards. There is a guest policy. There's strict guidelines on alcohol and drugs. There's quiet hours. Students are required to sign that contract. They must vacate the building in the summer and in the wintertime for the Christmas break. And they know they have a place to stay for the year. What's being proposed is the complete flip side. It's like we're talking about a black and white thing. There would be a building supervisor, proctor, which could be a student. I would argue that students in our community don't even know what their rights is as a tenant. How can you actually allow a student to oversee a group of people when they don't necessarily know their own rights? There'd be major concerns with respect to enforcing a guest policy and community standards and quiet hours. There is information on the Canadian Centre for Housing Rights where it stipulates that landlord cannot stop a tenant from hosting guests in their rental unit. In regular tenancies, a tenant has the right to welcome any guest that the tenant wants to visit in their unit and for any period of time. So what we're talking here about a place where 34 people will actually live, it actually means more traffic than a typical 34 group of people that, again, are using a shared kitchen, shared amenities, So this would be highly problematic because this is not an institution. I would really like to see the CCNB here tonight, to be quite frank. I don't know if they're present here in the room, but I think they should be part of the solution when it comes to this. I mean, we go to hotels because the kids are in sports, and like even in hotels now, there is security guards patrolling just to make sure, and the parents are around, and I get they're young kids, but there's still security in hotels all night. In campings where there's adults and kids, they have people patrolling. So it just proves the point that there needs to be some level of control over this property. So now what? Based on the proposed, and basically since this leads to discrimination and goes against the city's code of conduct, it goes against the municipal plan with respect to the property values, and there is really nothing that really, at least to me, that makes it very apparent that there's been considerations for public health and safety, and that the design meets the fire protection and access consideration. So as a result of those, I would suggest council to object and reject the proposed. As I said, what I would like to see, and I think there's a lot of housing needs in Bathurst for sure. I don't deny that, but I think let's not try to look at this situation in silo and pretend that there needs to be a decision on this just now. It would set a precedent. It's just opening a can of worms. It's something that I think the council should be very careful about in making sure that things are being done in a strategic and in a planned way to make sure that we can benefit, all can benefit from this in the end. Just as an example, Ottawa prohibits rooming houses in various areas of the city, including an area around Algonquin College. I would love to have that insight as to what are some of the reasons why some of these have been actually blocked from being developed in those areas. As I said in my letter, like the people walk the Three Bridges. If this starts, houses that have been sold, and you could check on POL, houses that have been sold recently and even in the last 10 years have gone over from a family to two adults living there to apartments or a rooming house. Like you only need to walk the streets to get to see, because they're coming out of those houses. They're 6, 7, and 8. I get that there's a need for rooms, but there needs to be, I think, a different methodology, a different way to regulate, to be able to make sure that the safety and security of those that are coming here from abroad, those that are coming here to study, those that are coming here to live, are actually protected. Again, I'll close off with that federal government stated, and what the emphasis here is really that the institution are supposed to provide adequate support for including housing options. Where is the CCNB in this? Where does their residence is? There's none. Right now it puts pressure, and I understand this is really, the CCNB, it's great for the community. I support, I've studied there, I've worked there. I love the work that they're doing, but they really need to also be at the table and demonstrate what are they willing to contribute to our community to offset that pressure that is being placed on our own local resident, and which exacerbates the housing situation. So just, and I'm done, I'll just show the two annexes and the references. These are basically a demonstration that there is no safe walkway from the building to college, whether you go from Kent or using college streets. There's literally no sidewalk. It's icy. And the annex 2 is with respect to the parking. You'll get to see that red circle there. Doesn't really actually show on the projected plan. It actually shows parking space where there is an actual entrance, which is a big cement block. So unless there's plans to remove that section, it's unclear to me whether there could be some parking space and whether the parking space still meets the bylaw. I'm done with my presentation. I appreciate your time. I know it's been a long evening, and on that, I leave you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so I will invite members of the public to express their opinions to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 495 Riverside Drive. Name and address, please, sir.
My name is Craig Melanson. I live at 520 Princess Street, and I wholly support the presentation that's just been made by Michael. I believe that he's put forward a lot of arguments that need to be examined much more carefully before a vote is taken. And I believe that I voted for most of you guys in the last election. But my wife and I moved back to Bathurst 7 years ago, after being away for about 50 years. Our memory of the city was of a beautiful place to live, with people who were had family values, where we enjoyed the joy and tranquility of our neighborhood. And so we have for the past 7 years. When we first arrived in Bathurst, one of the contractors asked me, "Why in heaven's name did you choose to come back to Bathurst?" My naive reply was, "Why are you still here?" I had no idea what I was talking about, but now I see what this guy was talking about, because I'm shocked. I served on councils for 20 years and have never seen the complete disregard and contempt of the citizens of this community and the laws you were elected to uphold. You're going to be making changes willy-nilly, as it's been said. Do future councils not respect your wishes? No, bylaws are made. They're made to be, they're laws. They're made to be upheld. Do future councils not respect your wishes and change bylaws at their will? I'm not naive enough to think that bylaws are carved in stone. They need to change. They need to change to reflect the needs and wants of the community. There is a process that we need to follow in order to accept these changes. And I think that we haven't had reviews of this bylaw for some time, and it needs to be done. I can't help but wonder what it is that council would be trying to accomplish with this reckless regard of the bylaws and its citizens. I know what I will lose, but I don't know what the city's going to gain. When this council would make and try to change one of its laws to disadvantage me and my neighborhoods, to change the law, not for the entire town. You're not going to change that particular zoning in the entire town, because you know that the zoning is proper and is needed in the neighborhood. But that's a clear discrimination of the people who live in our area. If you're going to only change the law for us, but not for anybody else, that's discrimination. I don't believe that you, your worship, or any of the councilors would be interested in moving to my neighborhood if this were to take place. As a matter of fact, if the changes are made before I arrived, I doubt if I known that the changes were going to be made before I arrived, perhaps I would have chosen another place to live. And how can if we go through with this, how can citizens of the rest of the city of Bathurst be comfortable when they know that at any opportunity you can change the law whatever you want, because that's what's happening here. You can just change the law at will. I think that they need to be properly studied. I think that there were some good presentations made. We haven't had the opportunity to be able to sit with the rest of you and make the changes that should be made. If I had thought that council would be using its power to change the neighborhood where I live without concern for my enjoyment and enjoyment of my community, I would definitely have chosen another municipality to live in. There are many people from away coming. There's a lot of people that are doing the same as me that are coming back to the city of Bathurst for much of the same reasons as my wife and I did. What message are you sending to them if you go ahead with this? When advising people planning to move to Bathurst, should I repeat what the contractor said to me? Why would you move to Bathurst? But I'd like to finish with just a quote that I found today. It says, one doesn't have the opportunity. I'm sorry. Let me start that back over again. One doesn't have to operate with great malice to do great harm. The absence of empathy and understanding are sufficient. Thank you for hearing me.
J'invite les membres du public à donner leur opinion concernant la modification prévue à l'arrêté de zonage pour 495 Promenade Riverside. So I will invite members of public to express their opinion to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 495 Riverside.
I'm not going to take too much of your time. I know we've all been here a while, and it looks like it's going to go on for quite a while longer. You read the letters, Ms. Parker, and mine included, so I'll try not to be repetitive. My name is Marilyn Gallagher. I live directly across the street from this beautiful property. I know it's been sitting vacant for a while. I'd love to see it developed responsibly and in an appropriate manner. I feel terrible for the people of Riverside Drive that are distraught, many seniors who've lived there for years, worried sick over what's going to be developed over there. I don't think anybody can say that any of us are against student housing or the students or international people coming and needing housing. I think it's obvious that it's the location that's the problem, and I think it should be up to the college to determine where to house students. And I don't think this can be solely called a student residence, as we've heard from Michael's presentation. You cannot enforce it because the college doesn't own it, it doesn't manage it, it doesn't operate it. If the college did, I think it would be a totally different story that we were talking about here. I also want to look at the big picture of what we want our city to look like. If this type of development continues to be a priority and is encouraged in our residential neighborhoods, the city's landscape will become a mass of rentals and rooming houses, and our residential neighborhoods will get pushed further and further outside of the city. One only needs to look around. It's already happening. There's countless of illegal rooming houses that already exist here. Our bylaws are in place to protect and preserve the character of our city so that people will want to stay here and others will be encouraged to move here. I fully support any appropriate development that is consistent with our current bylaws and that enhances the beauty of our waterfront and downtown core. And I believe somebody will eventually want to develop this property in a manner that does that. The current proposed development does not, in my opinion. The vast majority of the nearby residents have objected and petitioned against this development. The housing issues created by our government should not come at the expense of destroying our existing residential neighborhoods and the quality of life of the people that are living there. The City Council has an obligation to listen to the taxpayers of the city, and we should be able to rely on Council to uphold the city's bylaws and know that our voices are being heard. Otherwise, you're sending a message to all the residents of Bathurst, people who pay taxes here, the people who love our city, who've been here for years, that Council can just do whatever they want, investors can come in and do whatever serves them. And what will happen is our city's going to turn into something that we can't be proud of. I think it's a bad message to send to the residents that our opinions don't matter, and I think it's very important that, as Michael pointed out, we be strategic in how we solve our housing issues, and that we do that by, number one, respecting the people that live here and pay taxes here. Thank you.
I will go back. All right. Name and address, please.
I'm William Mean, 520 Riverside Drive. I've taught here for about 35 years. I've taught at CCNB at times too, and even ESN, believe it or not. So, being a teacher, there may be some test questions after, just to see whether you have read the letters that you have sent, that we have sent in. I think it's pretty straightforward. For me, anyway. I'm the one that's been there for 75 years, from one bridge to the other. And my family has been here 100 years before that, all in the same area. So what you are proposing to do with this bylaw is break up my neighborhood. You, Mr. Drysdale, was part of it at one time, but I guess he doesn't care for it now. My neighborhood, my community. And when I found out, I have to thank you, because I would have never been involved in this until Mr. Salva and a few of us got together. We said, this is not right. Definitely not right. I knew about this much about bylaws. Well, right now, I probably know more than most of you. Thank you. Thank you. But I also found out I've spoken to everyone, but my letter said, which one did I not speak to? Right there. And I would like to know, Worship, why you would not speak to me.
As I've answered in the email,
Yes.
and I think it was stated, and this is not a classroom, and I will be very direct here right now.
Okay.
Speak about the zoning.
All right.
You're not here to teach, and you're not here to ask questions, by the way.
All right. All
You're
right.
here to speak about what needs to be said on the zoning.
That's exactly what I'm going to speak about right now. You see how I was spoken to? She's my elected representative. I am her citizen. And she's telling me that she's not going to talk to me. I talk to everyone. I've gone to McDonald's restaurant, where everything is gospel there. I sat down with the people. I know a couple of them at the table, not all of them. And I would ask, what do you think about this rezone? Oh, great. Until I told them what it does. I come out with everybody that lived in the city, their signatures on the petition, because they knew it was wrong. I know it's wrong. And I think you should too. And believe it or not, there is one counselor here. Last night when I was talking to him, I asked, what do you think? He answered me truthfully. He thinks it's a good idea. So then, when I started to say, why it's not, he said, that's all. Maybe. I forget the word. Speculation. It's all speculation. Hung up. Well, my letter, he couldn't have read it, because it states right there of all the experience I've had in that. And it's not speculation. It's almost fact. Your proposal is pie in the sky and a lot of speculation. That's a fact. We have spoken about regulations. Mr. Melanson said, there's rules to follow. Well, a lot of you people know here that I've been an administrator of schools for 20 years. I have to make decisions. On what? Not my feelings. No. The laws and the regulations that we go by. I've refereed for over 50 years. The only one I didn't hit was the NHL. I have to make decisions in a split second. Based on what? Oh, I don't think you should have done that. No. You make them on the regulations. You make your regulations. Make your decisions on the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite members of the public to express their opinions to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 495 Riverside Drive.
Just one thing that I wanted to add, and I forgot to add it in my previous presentation, but just wanted to put everyone just aware of, I did a lot of research, as you might figured, and one of the, this just proves that some municipalities actually really took some of these things very seriously. And it goes to a point that Mr. Buffal mentioned about the zoning, that basically noise cannot be regulated by zoning, whatever. So, and it's basically, and it's available, I can also share as needed via email. I can maybe share with Ms. Parker and could be shared with councils, but it basically is an appeal that was made by a developer to appeal the decision that was made by council to reject the inclusion of dormitory as part of the general land use, to include it. It was to, the council actually rejected, the planner rejected, and there are two reasons for rejection. And just to mention that the appeal actually remained the same. The council decided not to amend, and that was the conclusion of the court case. The first reason was the legal tool given under the direction of the municipal planning strategy policy obliges us to consider that this as general provision amendment that would be in effect for all vacant institutional building throughout the, and it's in Cape Breton Regional Management. The Cape Breton Regional Management does not have, and that's the second one, does not have the authority under provincial enabling legislation to guarantee what makes such development potentially a nuisance in an urban residential neighborhood won't happen. Zoning cannot regulate who the tenants of a privately owned and operated dormitory will be, nor can zoning dictate who the subsequent owner will be. So that's just really, I think it's very important and critical here. The other piece, and I want to just piggyback on what my neighbor Marilyn mentioned here earlier, is that as part of my exchange with the New Brunswick Human Rights Act, there is a clear distinction. If a school is providing housing off campus specifically for its student, then refusing to rent to someone who is not of their student would likely not to be seen as discriminatory because they have control over their students. This is very similar to a business owner, and there's plenty in the area that bring in temporary foreign worker to work for, to support them in working. They can buy a property and say, these temporary foreign worker will reside in this property, and this does not constitute discrimination. So there is a big nuance, but it's a very key one to make consideration of.
Merci.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll go back. I invite members of the public to express their opinions to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 495 Riverside. You have to go to the mic. Unfortunately, yes. I hate to put you in that position, but since we are Facebook Live, people have to be able to hear you.
I'm Brenda Bigger. My husband, Peter, over there next to me. We live right next door to this property, 495 Riverside. I just wanted to mention that we had written a letter, but it wasn't acknowledged tonight. So it wasn't read.
When was it sent?
I know you to see if you received it. So I sent it to all the counselors. On Thursday. We were on a medical
Was it sent?
trip to Moncton, so
Was it only sent to the counselors?
the mayor.
Did you send it to?
Deputy mayor,
Did you send it to city clerk?
oh, maybe
That's
not.
why.
Oh, that's why, okay. I'll just-
Unfortunately, I think I know we've tried to send anything that came in to city clerk, but ideally, that's what we request, that it's sent to city clerk to make sure nothing gets forgotten. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right. So, we invite members to the public to express their opinions to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 495 Riverside Drive. Okay. Mr. Buffon, is there anything you would like to add? Moving forward, we're good? Okay. Now, do we have the developers? Are you looking to want to speak?
Yes, I'll say quick. I didn't think we were going to get a chance, but... Whew, long night. All right. So, my name's Chris Drysdale. I'm one of the developers along with Mike. Mr. Buffard kind of touched on my letter. I did some modifications to it, but I guess I'm just going to keep things short and sweet. One thing I did want to point out was the letter of support that was sent from the president of CCNB for our project. So I'll just read it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
Please be quiet. It's not your turn to speak.
Okay.
Everybody's had their opportunity. If not, you'll have to leave.
Well, maybe I'll leave. Can we invite home people?
All right.
All right. It is with enthusiasm that we have heard about your new development project at 495 Riverside Drive, New Brunswick, Bathurst, New Brunswick. We understand that this could represent a 32 housing project for the region. As you are aware, the CCNB has experienced exponential growth as its Bathurst campus, seeing 22% increase of its student body population over the last year. This represents 683 students for the 2023-2024 college year, and this number does not include the new students who will be starting in January 2024. We anticipate further growth in the coming years should housing be available. It should be noted that the biggest factor limiting our growth is a lack of affordable, appropriate, and safe housing for students. The proximity of this project to our campus is also of importance to us. The Bathurst region does not currently have public transportation, and most of our students do not have any mode of transportation. Having additional rooms available at proximity to our campus would be welcome news. Over the years, you have been a significant partner of the CCNB in housing many of our students. The care and support you provide to your tenants also makes you a preferred landlord with many of our students. It is for these reasons that we fully support your project and are anxious to see it move forward as quickly as possible. So that was a letter of support from them. So the other thing I just wanted to touch about, for last meeting, there was some concerns about security and all that. So I know it was talked about a lot, but so as far as security will be concerned, the building will be locked at all times, and students will require a passcode to gain entry. There will be security cameras in all common areas, inside and out, and there will be strict rules that the students will have to follow. The students will be responsible for the cleanliness of their respected rooms, but we will hire someone to come in 3 times a week to maintain and clean the common areas of the building. To strengthen security even more, we will appoint a student resident that will be able to keep an eye on the place and notify the owners if something happens. Also, to ensure the CCNB students will be living in the building, a valid student ID will be mandatory when signing the 10 to 12 month lease agreement. Other than that, I mean, the municipal plan goes on, and the provincial plan. There's a lack of housing, so I think this project certainly supports and goes along with the municipal plan and the provincial plan to increase housing in the area. That's about all I have to.
All right.
I'd like to say a few things as well. So I don't have a structured response just because I've been taking notes as people were speaking. So I just want to touch base on a few things. I guess I'll be jumping around a little bit here. There's been mention that we can't just change the zone. You've got to follow the zone, what's in the zone, bylaws, can't change bylaws, can't change laws. Right now, if I'm correct, student housing in Bathurst doesn't appear in a zone. So if you're a student, if there's students going to be addressed at all in this area, right now, I've heard stories, and I know some of you have heard stories in the summer, that the living conditions in the places that these students are living in now are so bad that in the summer, on nice nights, they're sleeping in the field because there's bad living conditions. Right now, there is no zoning for student housing. So is the answer that, okay, when you attach it to this zone, now there's a problem with somebody over here, not in my backyard type of thing going on all over the place? I really feel like the building that we want to put in place is going to be a structured building that's going to have a lot of amenities for students. People are going to want to live there. Chris has another building with 15, I think it's 15 or 18 residents. And we've shown some of you people, you know, video from a Friday night and a Saturday night. These are not ex-prison people that are coming into town. I mean, there's so much talk about crime and about all these things. These are students that want an education. They're students that want a safe living place. You know, right now, there was mention made of, you know, trash in the sidewalks and loud this and loud that. Perhaps in the basements that they're living now, the poor living conditions that they're living now, where there's really no special thing about the place they live, they don't have those rules to follow. For us, there's going to be rules to follow if you want to stay in that building. So if somebody steps out of line, they're going to be asked to leave the building. We're not going to put possibly $1 million into a building to turn it into a drug house in 2 years. That's not what the intention is. That's not the way this thing is going to go. I enjoyed Mr. Savoy's presentation. I thought it was really, really good. He brought up great points, but he did make reference to some of the studies that had taken place. And he brought up Waterloo, which I found interesting because over the past weekend I was in Toronto on business. And I have a friend, Hans Roche, who's a city councillor in the city of Waterloo. And we discussed what's going on here. And he sent me an email after we were done. And I have 2 points that I'd like to read from what he sent. But Waterloo actually did a study of the impact of international students in the region, living in their area. And I actually have copies made of the study that was done. International students positively impact Canadian education system. So there was an in-depth study with a lot of different bullet points that they were looking into. And here are some of the points that he made to me. So this is a quote from him. "I can't stress enough of the importance of fostering a diverse," you know what? You were saying things get smaller. I need these too. "I can't stress enough the importance of fostering a diverse and inclusive community which can have long-term social and economic benefits. These students can bring a unique perspective and contribute to cultural exchange with exchange and attract more business, potentially attract more business investments in the area. I have seen this in Waterloo." So that's a quote from him. And also he says, "We have data in Waterloo, which is one of the most diverse areas in Canada, that demonstrate that overall low crime rates associated with international students. These students present a positive impact on education and community engagement that actually reduces crime." So these are not fearful estimations of things that are going to happen in the future. These are studies based on fact in outside of campus areas that exist today that show that there's positive impact for these students. So it's not all end of days when an international student moves into your area. I'll actually go on record now to say if something happens that this gets voted down, I'm not going to be overly upset with it because I don't even know that that's a good place for students to be. I find it's not good. Also, My daughter goes to school in Halifax. She's been there for years. And she lives on off-campus student buildings. I don't know of one, because I sign all the time for the buildings that she's in, that has live-in security guards. There's got to be some practicalness to the requests that are made. If you want 24-hour security guards living in one of these places, you're paying a security guard $40,000 a year. I just did quick math. So it's basically for 36 students, you're looking at $100 a month a student. So if you want 24 hours round the clock, that's $300 a month just to cover the cost of security. They're not animals. You can have somebody, we have security cameras. Chris has a 15-unit building now that there's no police there round the clock. The neighbors are happy with the building that he runs. I think I'm just a little bit emotional on it because there's a characterization that these students are going to create this much trouble, and I just don't see it. So I'll be happy with whatever vote comes, truly happy. And thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. So we will go to 8.3, proposed zoning bylaw amendment 495 Riverside Drive. First reading of bylaw 2024-02Z. Ms. Parker.
That bylaw 2024-02Z entitled A Bylaw to Amend Bylaw 2008-01 entitled The City of Bathurst Zoning Bylaw be read for the first time.
All right, I'll need, sorry. Oh, it's true, you have to read the whole thing. I'm so sorry, Ms. Parker. That's
Sorry, you
true.
have to listen to me for a while.
First reading is 5 pages.
Bylaw number 2024-02Z. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 2008-01 entitled The City of Bathurst Zoning Bylaw. The Council of the City of Bathurst, under the authority vested in it by Section 117 of the Community Planning Act, hereby enacts as follows. 1. Bylaw number 2008-01 being the City of Bathurst zoning bylaw, done and passed on May 5th, 2008, duly registered in Gloucester County on May 20th, 2008, and identified by the number 255-68792 shall be modified as follows. 2. This bylaw applies only to the parcel shown on the map in Schedule A to this bylaw. 3. It is permitted to develop a student residence on the parcel of land referred to in Section 2 of this bylaw, subject to the terms and conditions set out in Schedule B of this bylaw. 4. If the parcel is not developed for the use mentioned in Section 3, it may be developed for the purposes and applicable standards mentioned in Section 4.5.1 of the City of Bathurst zoning bylaw. 5. Section 2, Definitions of the City of Bathurst zoning bylaw is amended by adding the following definition after the definition of structure. Student residence means a residence with a single or double room used exclusively to house students enrolled in a post-secondary institution on the CCMB campus. The residence must also include shared sanitary, culinary, and social facilities. 6. The use of the land, buildings, and structures on the parcel described in Schedule A must comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement attached as Schedule B of this bylaw, and adopted under the provisions of Section 59 of the Community Planning Act. Now you can get a mover.
All right, okay. So I'll need a mover and a seconder. I need someone to move. Okay, we'll go Councillor Branch, second by Councillor Willett. Okay, so we'll go to the question. Everybody still have their cards? All right. So all in favor? Oh, we have questions. All right, Councillor Branch, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone for their presentations and for a job well done. I just want to say we need responsible development. And in this case, I feel the health, safety, and well-being of the students and residents must be top of mind. That being said, I have a few questions and concerns. Some of the ones I'll give right now, I don't expect answers right away, but I'd like to have answers before the next meeting.
Okay.
Like if you look at the legal definition of a student residence, it says it's owned by an educational facility, and this is not the case here. So this leads me to wonder about things like part-time students. What about the summer? Like a student residence is normally vacant. What about after they graduate? what if they quit or they're kicked out of CCNB? How long can they stay after they leave school? Can they be evicted? Can the landlord refuse other tenants? Would the bylaw be enforceable? Like, can other groups of people be excluded? Like a lot of the questions that Mr. Savoy brought up in his presentation. So, like I say, those ones I don't expect anyone to answer that right now. I also have a question through you to Mr. Pettigrew, like about the traffic safety concerns. Is that an operational issue, or is that something that we should be considering when we make our decision?
Mr. Pettigrew?
We'll go through to Mr. Bouffard. I mean, part of the traffic study is Mr. Abernathy. Yeah, Mr. Abernathy's here. We do have some information, but traffic is, we'll go through to Mr. Bouffard to answer that question.
Okay.
Are you talking about pedestrian crossing?
Yeah, like there were, safety concerns brought up about pedestrians and vehicles, and so I'm just curious, is that something that we should be considering, or is that an operational issue that we shouldn't be considering when we make our decision?
You're going to go to the mic? Okay.
Not really, this is an engineering question, but right now there is a sidewalk on the other side of the street. But what I'm concerned, to the best of my, how can I say that? There are students living in this area, and they are walking on Riverside Drive to go to the university, to the college. They drive there already. They drive on Queen, they drive on Riverside, and they go up College Hill, because I don't think there is any other road to go to the college. So this facility will be closer to the college than where many students live right now. Many of them, I don't know, they live in downtown, they live in on St. Peter, and they have to walk there anyway. And all I can say is that, in terms of location, it's serve a purpose. It's what, 300 meters from the college, and it's much closer than any other type of housing where the student lives. So now, if you ask me if there was any at this time, if there was any pedestrian or traffic analysis, the answer is no.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that's not a concern then? Okay.
Oh, Mr. Abernathy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have traffic counts in the area. We have the capability in-house to do a traffic analysis based on tax standards for a crosswalk. So if council wishes, we can get that information together, if whether or not a crosswalk is warranted in an area with added 37 or however many units there are in that area. We can get that to council before the next meeting.
Okay, and my other question, like there was mention at a previous meeting about a 13-unit building, and tonight there was talk of 15 to 18 residents. I was just wondering how that building was zoned, or how those buildings are zoned.
Which one? The buildings? I think that wasn't it R3 you had mentioned earlier? You're talking about a presentation Mr. Buffal did?
No, I'm saying like at a previous meeting you had mentioned the building on Archibald Street that had 13 units in it, and tonight when Mr. Doucette was talking, he mentioned there are other buildings with 15 to 18 residents. Like, are those our 3 buildings? I'm just kind of curious.
The one behind Shoppers Drug Mart, you want to know what it is?
Sure, yeah.
What's the current zoning for the one behind Shoppers Drug Mart? Do you know, Mr. Buffal?
No, I don't have this answer right now.
Because it doesn't apply to what we're doing now with this zone.
No, just
we can bring it for the next meeting
and
try to find out.
as an example, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, Deputy Mayor Anderson?
I just have a question. I appreciate everybody's letters and concerns, and the presentation, Mr. Savoy, was very well done. I also appreciate what you had to say as well, Mr. Doucette. I get it. A couple questions I have is, Mr. Buffard, are you aware if, because like it was a good point raised about how Mr. Doucette said right now there is no student housing anywhere in our bylaw. We don't have any bylaws regarding student housing. Are you aware of, within the province, say, or Atlantic Canada, bylaws regarding student housing in cities' municipal plans?
Oh, I'll give you the mic, Mr. Pfau.
In New Brunswick, the closest definition I found is in Fredericton.
Yeah.
And by the way, in Fredericton, dormitory or student housing is a permitted use in the institutional zone.
Okay.
Right now, they have a downtown area of Fredericton. There's a, I don't recall the name of that student housing, student residence, but I agree it is run by the university, UNB, but the residence is off campus. So it's not all the residents. Universities, sometimes they have residents on campus, but also many universities, they have residents off campus. So in Fredericton, the definition I found, but they do have a definition. I'd like to, okay, it's here. So again, in the institutional zone 2 in Fredericton, permitted use will include dormitory or residence, same thing, a group home, and a wide range. They have 30 use permitted. So definition of dormitory or residence means a building containing sleeping units which are provided and or rented for occupancy by student and or staff members affiliated to with a college, hospital, private school, religious order, rest or nursing home, university or similar institution, and which is regulated by such institution. So it's a fact that they are regulated.
They're regulated by the
Yes.
university. Okay.
But it's about management.
Right.
Still the use. You know, zoning is about the use of the land.
Right.
Here, we're talking about management.
Right, different
Because
stories.
it's a fact, I also did my own, you know, I also read student residence, it's a fact, it's right, you have a lot of student residence on campus run by university and also off campus run by university. But also you have a lot of student residence operated by the private sector in many communities. And some residents, they are quite big. In Guelph, for example, I think right now there are something like 800 students. And also in some places you have a student residence built by non-profit organization. It's a case in Montreal. You have a group called Utile, and they own a lot of student residence, but it's not run by university, but also it's a non-profit organization. And right now they are looking to build a tower in Montreal for about 1,000 students, among other projects. So you ask me, is there a definition? I found one, but it's a fact that also many places where students, residents exist, they don't have a definition. I also found a definition today earlier in the document. It's called zoning definition. It's a document that we have here. It's produced by a consultant, Lehan Associated, and they do suggest to planning, to municipalities, a definition for student residence. And the definition they suggest is a building for the purpose of accommodating students in dwelling units or other separate quarters and erected under the provision of the appropriated legislation, provided that such building may include common area and cooking and dining facilities. And I think it matches the definition we are proposing. Okay, so these are two definitions that I found, one in New Brunswick and the other one in the zoning document used across Canada. But other place, it's a fact that I didn't find a lot of definition for student residence. So basically, any student residence in Bathurst of this scale, of this type, would require a rezoning, because they are not permitted in any specific zone.
Right. And how would you propose us ensuring that the regulations or the recommendations, restrictions that would be put in place are followed? Our by law enforcement officer?
That's one tool. Again, we ask the proponent to give you in writing what he intends to do to make sure that the occupants will be student only, enrolled at the college. So he made a suggestion, but again, it was mentioned that he should do that in writing, so you will have a record in writing. This is how I will operate.
And that's a point, because realistically, we don't have that in writing as to exactly how Mr. Drysdale and Mr. Doucette plan to proceed to ensure that those...
We don't have that yet. So it was suggested that we should, no, not suggested, it's part of a condition.
It's part of the conditions, that's why I'm asking, yeah.
So when you are, so no building permit, even if you proceed, the way it is written, even if the rezoning is done, the planning department will not issue a building permit until you have received that letter and council is satisfied that about the way it will be enforced or monitored or controlled.
Okay.
So that's the way that's the way. Perhaps I should read. Do you want me to read the condition again?
Perhaps.
But it is in the conditions that prior to the adoption of the rezoning, okay, sorry, it's prior to the adoption of the zoning bylaw. So they need to provide that before third reading. Okay? So prior to the adoption of the rezoning bylaw, applicants shall be required to provide a written document acceptable to the City Council describing the means that will be taken by them to ensure and guarantee that the residence will be occupied solely by students enrolled in the post-secondary institution on the CCNB campus. So correct me for my, but the condition is prior to the adoption, so it has to be done before third reading.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
All right. Councillor Branch?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not so much a question, I guess, as a comment. Maybe something that the developers could explore is a memorandum of understanding with the college. That way, if they were affiliated with the college, that may give them leverage to evict people that are non-students and to limit registration.
We're in current talks with the CCNB right now on how things are going to roll out, so we're hoping to get some agreement with them that they will have placement for the building. So I was hoping to have some word back before this meeting, but they're supposed to get back to me before the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I guess there's one thing then. I just want to throw this out there. Is it possible to table the vote until we have the answers to the questions that I asked and we find out about the memorandum of understanding? I'd like to move.
Again, there's 3 readings to be done, so you could, the first 2 are by title, or it was read in its entirety, but the bylaw will be read for the 3rd time and enactment.
So as we did in the past, so you do the first reading and then there's still 2nd and 3rd reading.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sometimes as councillors, we have hard decisions to make, and it's a hard decision for everyone in this room, and there's a lot to consider. I really appreciate all the presentations that were made on both sides of it. For me personally, it's tough because I know a lot of the people involved. I've known people in that area for decades. I've worked with some of them, and you know, it's a tough decision. But I just want to throw that out there. It's not easy for any of us in this room, including yourselves. I just wanted to make that known.
Right. Councillor Hondas?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm impressed with the passion that I can see in this room today on both sides. I understand the people of Riverside Drive. We have distinct issues with the development, but I have to take my hat off to the developers too that are wanting to take a chance, because if you look around, there's not much development going in this city right now because everybody has that attitude that Mr. Melanson had pointed out, why Bathurst? So somewhere along the way, I hope we can come up to a happy medium where we can all get together and make this happen. I think there's a necessity for it, but I think we have to do it right. As Mr. Savoy pointed out, and thank you for your presentation, Mikhail. Excellent job. Mr. Mean, I've known you pretty much all my life. You were an umpire at baseball, didn't always make the right calls, but that's another point. But you did your job as you did today. You got prepared, and I appreciate all of the letters that we got. But somewhere along the way, we have to move forward, and the only way, once I think we made this distinction one time, is that once the first development comes, if it's done properly, we can welcome another one. I think somewhere along the way, we have to get together and be able, if the developers are, can be persuaded to put extra security or different rules on, I think there's a good possibility this could work, and I'm sure everybody's open to it there. So, and I live in East Bathurst, so I lived across the street from the house that Mr. Mean mentioned for many years. I drive by the mill site every day going to work, so I know what your frustrations are. But somewhere along the way, the house got torn down. The mill site's going to be hopefully taken care of eventually. I'm knocking on wood here, but I'm trying my best to make a decisive decision based on the facts and, as Mr. Meehan pointed out, with the passion and the respect I have for you guys that are being here tonight. So it's like Mr. Noel said, it's not easy. These decisions aren't popular at times, but somewhere along the way we have to move forward. And hopefully we can come to some understanding where everybody's going to be happy, everybody's going to benefit from this. It's just very difficult. There's a lot of information that went through that, plus the letters we had to read, and there's a lot of information. I think it's too bad we didn't have more time to study this. And then, as Mikhail said, if we would have maybe got a group together and be able to work it out and maybe hash this all up before this came about, it might have been easier for us to make a decision.
All right. Okay. So we'll go to the vote. I'll go for the for and the against, and I ask that you raise your card, please. And because this is rezoning, if you vote no, I will go to you individually, and you have to explain why. And this is part of the regulation, and that's something that I've decided to do. All right. All those in favor signify with your card. Okay. Against? All right. Mr. Burnett, reason why? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. There you go.
The presentations were excellent on both sides. Mr. Papar did a good job, as I mentioned earlier, but I find that the citizens did a better job. And I definitely have to support the citizens in this one. And hopefully, by my mentioning the community college on the hill needing places for students, that they will now come on board and go out there and beat the drum to sort of get some people to go up on the hill to build some student residences. So definitely, I support the residents.
Right. Councillor Scarry?
Being new to City Council, again, like Ricky said, there's a lot of emotions here, and I do understand the emotions of the residents in that area. We do need to develop our area as well. Is there, being new, in my heart of hearts, we are here for the residents of the city, but we also are here for the residents of the city to develop. I'm just wondering, I think there is room to maybe work on something down the road, and maybe, can this be brought back as something else under the new direction, with all the guidelines met, with a new proposal? Can that be something that can be brought back?
No, we have 3 readings, so there's a second and a third reading. All right, so that's what you're requesting. Okay. Councillor Hondas?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For myself, I just seem that there's too many unanswered questions right now. It's a gray area. We're doing stuff quickly. Unfortunately, I wish we had more time. Like I said, I know we can come to some sort of a happy medium where everybody's happy. It's never easy to see something like this grow in your backyard, as they say, but somewhere along the way you have to accept
the decision that's made. But for me, it's just some lack of information, some questions that need to be answered before I could
All right.
say yes to this development.
Perfect. And Councillor Branch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of like I said a while ago, like the health, safety, and well-being of all concerned, like the residents and the students, and a lot of unanswered questions. And again, I would like to see the affiliation with the college, so then we could be more assured that things are enforceable.
Okay. So motion carried with the first reading. We will move on to the second reading, and then we have another meeting. Just now that the vote has passed, Mr. Pettigrew and myself were in Fredericton 2 weeks ago, and we were with Minister Jill Green, and we were with Paul Jordan and a group of people, and there was 10 mayors sitting around a table. A lot of our municipal bylaws are very, very old. And one of the main things that we have to change is the municipal bylaws. We've basically been told, as you know, we have 5 years, but it needs to change. We were told that housing becomes priority. Housing, student housing, and granny suites or apartments in your basement. That becomes priority for the province of New Brunswick. At this time, CCNB cannot apply for any programs with the province of New Brunswick because it only applies to universities. CCNB and NBCC do not qualify. They're trying to make the changes, but they do not qualify. It's only universities that are qualifying at this time. So moving forward, we will need to change our bylaws on apartment buildings, on how many units in apartment buildings, how high we will be going with apartment buildings, because we will be required by the province and by the federal government. There is funds out there that are through the Federal Accelerator Fund. There is funds within the provincial government. Any developer that wants it to qualify has to fall within these guidelines that are put forward. Any developer in any municipality. So this is the one of many to come in the next 2 years while we're doing this mandate. And if we do not get new development, cost is going up. Our hydro was $175,000 this month. 3 months, 6 months ago, we were at $100,000. Everything, cost is going up. What's going to happen is property taxes are going to have to go up. If we do not get new tax to this city, property taxes will have to go up. We have not increased property taxes since 2016. We have not. Development will have to become a priority for the city and for the province of New Brunswick. That's just the way it has to be. And that's the way we've been asked to by the provincial government and the federal government. So it's not myself or anybody else that decides that we're making changes. Changes are going to have to come. And if we don't make changes, funding will not come with it. We'll be one of the cities that will be bypassed, and they'll give it to Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John, where they're developing. So we will go to the second reading of the bylaw of 2024-02Z. Oh, sorry, I'm going to give you the mic, Ms. Parker.
That bylaw 2024-02Z, entitled A Bylaw to Amend Bylaw 2008-01, entitled The City of Bathurst Zoning Bylaw, be read for the second time by title.
All right, so I'll ask council to raise your card. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye in your yellow card. Oh, so I jumped. Okay, I'll need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Councillor LeBlanc, moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Legacy. Sorry. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to motion the second reading, table the second reading, simply because I feel that there was a lot of information provided tonight. Personally, I voted yes on the first reading, knowing that there was still 2 other readings to come, knowing that there was still time to get more information and make changes as council sees fit. That was the reason why I voted for the first reading. I personally would like to table the second reading until we can get some information from the developers that's requested and have questions answered that have been asked.
All right, Ms. Parker.
That item 8.3.2, second reading of bylaw 2024-02Z, be tabled.
All right, so I'll need a seconder for Deputy Mayor Anderson. Okay, Councillor Hondas. and then I need to go to vote. All those in favor signify with your yellow card. Against? All right. They all went up and down too quick.
You
Okay.
gotta leave them up.
You have
'cause
to
we
leave them up.
can't-
Who's in favor for tabling the second motion? Who's against for tabling the second motion? Okay, against has been denied. So then we're going to go to the original vote. All those in favor, raising your card. Okay. Against, raise your card.
So we defeated the motion.
So we've defeated the motion. So everything's been defeated. We're back at 0, so this is not coming back. It's not just it's tabled, it's defeated now. The whole thing is defeated. All right. All right, so we move on to 8.4, 2024-04, Transit Traders, Peddlers, Vendors, and Mobile Truck Bylaws. First reading of the bylaw 2024-04. Ms. Parker.
That the proposed bylaw 2024-04 entitled Transient Traders, Peddlers, Vendors, and Mobile Truck Bylaw shall be read 3 times by title as per requirements specified in the Local Governance Act, Section 15(3), and that the above-mentioned proposed bylaw may be examined by contacting the city clerk during regular office hours, and that the above-mentioned proposed bylaw shall be posted to the City of Bathurst website and Facebook page as per the Local Governance Act, Section 71C, and that the purpose of the aforementioned proposed bylaw is to ensure that the vendors, peddlers, mobile trucks, and vending units in the city abide by the regulations of the Department of Health and to regulate the quantity of mobile trucks and vending units. Be it resolved that the proposed bylaw 2024-04 entitled Transient Traders, Peddlers, Vendors, and Mobile Truck Bylaw be read for the first time by title.
All right, I'll need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Scarry, Councillor Burnett. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 8.4.2, second reading of bylaw 2024-04.
That bylaw 2024-04 entitled Transient Traders, Peddlers, Vendors, and Mobile Truck Bylaw be read for the second time by title.
All right, we have someone to move. Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Branch. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 8.5, 2024-05, a bylaw to license or regulate outside entertainment. First reading of bylaw 2024-05.
That the proposed bylaw 2024-05 entitled A Bylaw to License and Regulate Outside Entertainment shall be read 3 times by title as per requirements specified in the Local Governance Act, Section 15(3), and that the above-mentioned proposed bylaw may be examined by contacting the city clerk during regular office hours, and that the above-mentioned proposed bylaw shall be posted to the City of Bathurst website and Facebook page as per the Local Governance Act, Section 71C, and that the purpose of the aforementioned proposed bylaw is to regulate and ensure that the outside entertainment in the City of Bathurst are properly licensed and compliant. Be it resolved that the proposed bylaw 2024-05 entitled A Bylaw to License and Regulate Outside Entertainment be read for the first time by title.
All right, may I have a mover? Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Knowles. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Second reading of bylaw 2024-05.
That bylaw 2024-05 entitled A Bylaw to License and Regulate Outside Entertainment be read for the second time by title.
All right, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Legacy, followed by Councillor Willett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Draft resolutions. 2024 grants distribution for the City of Bathurst.
That the grants distribution for 2024 be approved as follows. Four Directions, $5,000. 640 Chaleur Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron, $1,600. Bathurst Advisory Committee for Persons with Disabilities, Best Group, $500. Bathurst Arts Society, $5,000. Bathurst Music Festival 2024, $2,000. Chaleur Regional Hospital Foundation, $1,000. Co-Action, $2,000. Doucet Hennessy House, $2,500. Elementary Literacy, $1,000. Nipisiguit Micmac Trail, $2,400. Royal Canadian Legion, $4,800.
All right, I'll need someone to move in second. Councillor Branch, seconded by Councillor Legacy. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carried. 9.2, proposed to repeal policies.
That the following policies hereby repealed. 1993-03 Council Matters Follow-Up Outstanding List. 2014-01 Advertising Electronic Sign Casey Irving Regional Center.
All right, I need someone to move and propose. Okay, Councillor LeBlanc, Deputy Mayor Anderson. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carried. 9.3, P 2023-01 Policy on Information Requests and Communication made by elected officials and administration.
Councillor Willett will need to come back to that one.
Okay.
He left too soon.
He left too soon, okay. Can we go get him, please? Yeah. Hey, you left a bit too soon, Councillor Willett. Yes, you are, but okay.
Whereas the effective management of information requests and communications made by elected officials and administration is vital for the efficient operation of our organization, be it resolved that members of council approve policy P 2024-01 entitled Policy on Information Requests and Communications made by elected officials and administration as attached hereto.
All right, so I'll need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Branch, seconded by Councillor Knowles. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 9.4, 2024 Bathurst Harvest Festival Corvette event. Now, Mr. Willett, you can go. All right, Ms. Parker.
That members of council approve a grant of $3,550 to the 2024 Bathurst Harvest Festival Corvette event from the Tourism Accommodation Levy collected as discussed during the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 12, 2024.
All right. Councillor Scarry, second by Councillor Burnett. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Can we get Councillor Willett to come back? 9.5, proposed allocation of the City of Bathurst 2023-2024 Canada Community Building Fund Capital Investment Plan.
That council authorizes the paving of Riordan Drive to be proposed project for the CCBF, additional funding allocated to Bathurst.
All right, I need a mover, seconder. Councillor Branch, second by Councillor Legacy. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Items for information, reports from administration. Mr. Pettigrew, did you have anything you would like to add?
Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity. Thank your worship. And I need my glasses again. Just like to take the opportunity. I know it's been a long evening, but I'm just going to do it real quick here. I just want to point out that with our recent changes in our water and sewer bylaw, the city is going through some major changes with our billing processes. And at this time, I'd like to pass on the following message to our residents. First of all, I'd like to take the time to thank those that have been respectful and patient with our frontline staff. We understand that it can be difficult and frustrating at some times with the new changes, but I ask that you be patient and respectful and let our staff happily assist you with your requests. Thanks.
All right. Committee reports, Ms. Parker?
There were no reports.
All right. Mayor's report. I just have one thing that I would like to add. So it's Heritage Week at the Bathurst Museum. It starts on Monday, February 19th to Friday, February 23rd. Donc, c'est la semaine du patrimoine au musée de Bathurst du 19 au 23 février, dont lundi, aujourd'hui. Il y avait la porte ouverte pour le musée de 12 à 4h30. Il y avait plein d'activités. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, the museum is open from 1 to 4. Then there's First Nation event from 7 to 9 p.m. On Wednesday, there's the social tea reception with vintage hat. Everyone is welcome from 2 to 4. On Thursday, récital de musique de la formation de treble marqueuse de 14h à 16h. Et la musée, la porte est ouverte de 13h à 16h. And on Friday, the 23rd, we have musical evening with Roger Lantang and the Acadians from 7 to 8 p.m. And there will be a 50-50 draw that evening. So if you have an opportunity, take the time to go visit the Heritage Museum this week. We will go to the adjournment of the meeting.
That the regular public meeting be adjourned at 10:05 p.m.
All right. Moved by Councillor Branch, second by Councillor Willett. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a great evening, everyone.